Hello, 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 everybody. Pop culture curator here. I'm so excited. So excited. It's Wednesday. We're back for another review of a couple episodes of Gilligan's Island. And I'm here with my fellow panelist, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. How are you doing, Gorilla?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Well, it's so good to see you. I know it's been kind of a rough road for you the last few days there, and I'm glad you were able to resolve your issues. And so that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
And
guess.
I like, yeah, well, obviously, yeah. I mean, considering what did they
Yeah.
charge when they told you with your vehicle that it was just a battery cable? Did they charge you just to tell you that, or did they say no charge? It's just your battery cable.
No, I found that out on my own.
Well, even better. So then, obviously, it saved you over $1,000. That's wonderful.
2000.
2,000, even better. And I'd like to welcome Hopcast in the chat. So good to see you, Hopcast. If you're listening, Hopcast is a wonderful stream, and I'm gonna and oh, in fact, Hopcast. If you get a chance, I don't know if you're on. I think are you on Twitter? Are we sharing Twitter? What do they call it? Uh, I don't contact info, but if I can get Hopcast, well, I'll do that. I'm gonna try to get your the link to your channel, Hopcast, and that way I can share it in the chat. I usually try to share everybody's channel when I can. If I know people have content and they're fellow streamers like we are, then I usually try to shout it out and give you credit. So I'll be doing that, and I'll try to do that tonight during the stream. Do I have my stream elements brought up? Where is it? Yeah. Okay. So tonight we are covering. Oh, did you have any questions before we get started, Gorilla?
No, but I will say though, this first episode, this is the first time I don't want be the first that it'd be tough to off for the first person to off on the island be Mrs. Howell. This is the very first episode. I questioned that.
Wait. Say that again. You're questioning whether she would be the first person off or she
No,
wouldn't.
no. Remember we were joking around and said and was talking about who we'd want to who'd be the first ones we'd off on the island there.
Right.
So this is the first episode. I didn't feel like she'd be the first one.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Okay. Usually, before I start our stream, sometimes I'll read a little bit from. I have the book Inside Gilligan's Island by. It's actually called Inside Gilligan's Island: From Creation to Syndication by Sherwood Schwartz. And every now and then I'll read to it. It's a little bit behind the scenes information about how the show came together and how Sherwood Schwartz, who is the producer, came up with the idea. And I know the last week or two I didn't get a chance to read from the book because we were so busy, but today I'm going to try the best I can. I have part that I have pulled up here is how they got Alan Hale Jr. Uh, as the skipper. And this is Sherwood Schwartz on the phone with his agent. And he says, "Hi, Bob. I'd like to talk to you about Alan Hale. I was on the phone with Bob Lornsby of the Bill Shipping Agency. Is he available for a series?" I asked. "Yes," said Bob, "depending on the dates, the material, and naturally the money." It was a logical agent response. "The date is the important thing," I replied. "United Artists and CBS can talk to you about the money, and I'm sure the role is perfect for Alan. But availability is critical because this pilot film shoots in 3 weeks." "Well, that shouldn't be a problem," said Bob. "Bud's in a movie right now, but he'll be available in 2 weeks." Bud was Alan Hale. That's when I first learned that everybody who knew Alan Hale well called him Bud. So in real life, that's the name he went by. "Wonderful. When can I get together with Alan?" "Well, as soon as he gets back from Utah," said Bob. I was flabbergasted. "Utah? He's here in town. I just saw him at dinner last night." "Well, that was last night. He left at 5 this morning for St. George, Utah. That's where they're doing the location on a Civil War movie." "Somehow I've got to get him back here to do a test scene with Bob Denver," I said. "Well, that's going to be tough, as you know. They shoot 6 days a week on location, and their local location is down in a gorge. They have to reach it on horses, and their equipment has to go down on mules." "Well, I've got to get him back here somehow, even if it's on a Sunday." "Well, look," said Bob. I haven't seen this property, and neither has Bud, and I'll have to make some kind of deal with United Artists or CBS before I bring him back from Utah. Well, I'm not worried about the deal. I'm just worried about the test with Bob Denver. There's plenty of film on Bud. I can get on. So what he's saying is they used to. I'll try to. Cause this is like a couple of paragraphs. But sometimes the studio, before they would make a decision on an actor, they would pull in films or clips from previous movies or series. But what Sherwood Schwartz points out that if it's been like several months or maybe even a year, sometimes that actor could change. They could look completely different. So that's why they decided they wanted an actual screen test of Alan Hale Jr. so the studio could see what he looked like at that present time. And here we are back to the book. I told Bob I'd send him a couple of copies of the script and asked him to get one to Alan Hale. I also asked Bob to find out how to lift Alan out of that gorge on Utah on the coming Sunday or the following Sunday. These were the only two possible days left to test him before the shooting date of our pilot film. I phoned CBS and told them about the problem. Hunt agreed that Alan Hale was certainly worth testing. However, CBS videotape facilities were down on Sundays. Hunt would have to try to hold them open in the event that Alan Hale could return from location. I wasn't exactly sure whether Bob Denver would be available on both Sundays. He had been super cooperative thus far. A quick phone call to Bob Denver gave me his assurance that he would make himself available. Then Hunt Stromberg phoned back with good news about the CBS facility. He held them open on a Sunday. The remaining problem, it was a big one, was getting Alan Hale to Hollywood for the test. Assuming Alan and his agent both liked the project and the script, and a deal was negotiated, how could we get Alan to come up out of that gorge, get to Hollywood, and return to his film company all in one Sunday? And I don't know who first said, well, where there's a will, there's a way, but I know it goes back a long way. Maybe it was Eve when she offered Adam the apple. Alan read the script and loved it. He knew the only way he could get the part was to get to Hollywood on Sunday, and he took direct action. He asked a buddy of his, Skip, another actor in the film, to ride with him out of the gorge up to the highway and stay there with Alan's horse until he returned from Hollywood. That buddy must have been an awfully good buddy because he had to wait by the side of the highway with Alan's horse for over 6 hours. During those 6 hours, Alan hitchhiked a ride on a truck from St. George, Utah to Las Vegas, Nevada. Then he flew from Las Vegas to Los Angeles and took a cab to the studio. Bob Denver and Rod Amato and I were waiting at CBS, and the facilities were available. After a few rehearsals, Bob and Alan did the scene that had proven disastrous for every other potential skipper. Anybody who's ever seen an episode of Gilligan's Island knows the magic between Bob Denver and Alan Hale. It was evident immediately. No matter how Alan ranted and berated Gilligan, you knew he loved him every second. There was never any doubt about the test. Everyone who saw it knew that Alan Hale was the skipper and that the skipper was Alan Hale. They were meant for each other. But Alan couldn't even wait around for results. He flew back to Las Vegas, hitchhiked to St. George, met his friend and his horse, and both men and both horses rejoined the film company down in the gorge. It was a very exciting day for Alan Hale, and it was an equally exciting day for me. Finally, Gilligan's Island's two main equations were completed. Bob Denver equals Gilligan, and Alan Hale is the skipper. Gilligan and the skipper provided the broad slapstick comedy. It was urgent to supplement this with wit and satire, comedy of an entirely different sort. Mr. and Mrs. Thurston Howell III were on the island to provide that balance, and I will cover them next week. So that is how Skipper came to be on the show. So everybody, tonight we're going to be covering our first episode is How to Be a Hero. And it's season 1, episode 23 of Gilligan's Island, and it originally first aired on March 6, 1965. All right, so let me get my screen ready to share here. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't see the chat. Hello, they call me nobody. So good to see you. So good to see you. Let me cover this here.
Yeah, and hey there, Nemesis.
Hello, Nemesis of Eden. And Nemesis of Eden, thank you for being at my Evil Dead cast last night. That was a blast. So we have Hothcast here. And here we go. They call me nobody. It says Wrongway Feldman is the best. Absolutely. This is Wrongway Feldman Returns. So this will be our second time with Wrongway Feldman. Nemesis of Eden says, "Hail, pop culture curator, Gorilla, and chat. Hope you're all doing awesome tonight. We are as well. We hope you are too." And Hopcast says, "Pop culture curator, I'd love to swing by, bro, but the StreamYard link isn't working for me." Oh, I'm sorry.
I can put it in the chat again.
Yeah, is there something wrong with the link? Go ahead and put it in the chat again, Gorilla. I appreciate it. I wonder if there's something wrong with the link that I put in there.
Yeah, then I put his link to his channel in there. Does nobody in Nemesis have channels?
My name is Nobody. Yes, they call me Nobody. Has a channel. And Nemesis of Eden, when I asked him last night during the Evil Dead stream, he said he did not, but that always changed. And if it does, you guys, please let us know in the chat so we can help you promote your channels.
Yeah.
I know my channel's not that big, so if I say I'm going to promote your channels, I know that's not much, but I'm always willing to do it anyway because, anything to help friends and fellow YouTubers. And they call me Nobody. Says, I think that's cheers. I think it's a drink. And Nemesis of Eden says, it was a blast on the Evil Dead stream. I plan on being a regular on your horror streams. They were so much fun. Well, that is wonderful. I'm glad you had a good time. And yes, if I can get regulars on there, all the better. So yes, you're much, much welcome to be there anytime you want. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started here with our first episode of Gilligan's Island. And here we go. And we have our usual opening here. And the weather, of course, is getting rough. I so wish we could play this theme song. It's like a classic. It's like one of the best theme songs in television history.
Yeah.
And Ginger, and of course, this being the first season, we have "And the Rest" instead of the Professor and Marianne. We'll get that song and title at the next season.
Yeah. So they still haven't fixed that atrocity yet.
They still have not fixed that atrocity yet.
Yep.
And as we've covered before, the reason why is because they filmed the opening before they even hired Marianne and the Professor. Yeah. So when they originally filmed the opening, it was for the pilot cast, which they replaced most of. And here we are. We open with the lagoon, and it looks like we have a headhunter heading into the lagoon on a canoe.
Yeah, that's from a nearby island, ain't it?
Yes, you're from a nearby island. Because obviously being on that canoe and he doesn't have a lot of provisions and equipment, he must be from a close area. This marks the first episode of Gilligan's Island where we get a native on the island.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Yeah.
And like I was mentioning to Gorilla before the stream started, I'll be mentioning a little bit about this actor here who plays the headhunter.
Yeah. And come on, don't tell me that eating fruits, vegetable, and fish is healthy for you. I mean, come on, look at the size of that guy. And Skipper still hasn't lost any weight. They're trying to tell me if you want to live healthy, you eat fish, fruits, and vegetables. Bullshit! I got two examples of proof right here of people with that diet, and look at them.
Now remember, he's a headhunter, so he might also be a cannibal. So maybe he got that fat from eating fat people.
Well, how many people does he run into?
Well, probably whoever accidentally lands on his island, I guess. Or maybe that's what he's doing. He's out hunting for other people on other islands. And I want to mention this actor who is playing the headhunter. His name is Russ Grieve. He was alive from 1923 and he passed away in 1980. Did a lot of movie work and television. He was for horror fans out there, if you're listening, he was in the original Hills Have Eyes. He was the father of the family that was driving the motorhome that I'm sure you guys remember that they burned. They put him on a stake and then tortured him and burned him. And he was also in several television series, Charlie's Angels and things like that. Incredible Hulk, $6 Million Man, The Love Boat. And I was mentioning for Gorilla has a Thursday stream where he covers the Waltons. And
yeah, that's gotten switched to Fridays.
And this guy, Russ Grieve, plays in 2 episodes of the Waltons. And those episodes are, for your information, Gorilla, Season 1, Episode 20, when you get to it, called The Deed. He's going to play the police sergeant.
Okay.
And he'll also be in season 4, episode 3, called The Fighter, where he'll be the ring announcer.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So there's a little bit of trivia for you to watch when you get there on your
If
feed,
I remember,
if you remember.
because I suffer from CRS.
What is that?
Can't remember shit.
Oh, that's fine. All of us are like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and for everybody in the chat, I will try to cover all the chat. Usually, when you see me showing the slides from the presentation, that window is covering my StreamYards, and I'm not able to see the chat. But I'll try to move it out of the way.
Yeah,
And all,
I'll have you covered on that part.
yeah, I was just gonna say, and also Gorilla has control over that, where he can pop up and read the links to help me out, so I don't miss anybody. Because I really do appreciate everybody in the chat for being here. So here we are with the headhunter arriving on the island, and you'll see he has his canoe, which I'll bring up later. I like the makeup too. They put the makeup under his breasts to highlight his breasts for some reason. I thought that was kind of hilarious. So he takes his canoe and he hides it in the bushes. And here we have at the same time, looks like Gilligan is catching butterflies.
Yeah. Okay. Nemesis here says, feel free to promote me. I plan on doing video game related content, maybe some monster related content too. I just need to get some proper capturing equipment. Oh, that's good to know.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. And he also says, good to know some horror trivia.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nemesis, myself personally, I don't stream games yet. At least I haven't done it. But if you need any advice, Gorilla might be able to help you. He streams Minecraft.
Hey, Tim, like if he's planning on streaming from like a console or anything, I can introduce him to Tim Christ because he does that all the time. Is streaming is different games that
Right.
he's
So
playing.
right. So let us know, Nemesis, if you're playing it like on a PC or a console or whatever. But there's plenty of people in our community here that can help you get started and tell you what you need without having to spend a lot of money. Hopefully.
Yeah. Tim Christ is the person right now that I know who to talk to. Otherwise, Simple Jack is also would be another good one to talk to.
Oh, very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because all he does is he streams Battlefield 2042 and Fortnite.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we have Gilligan capturing butterflies, and it looks like Marianne's taking a little dip in the lagoon.
Is this the first time we actually get to see her swim?
Yes, that's the first time we've seen her swim, and it's a good thing she has that bathing cap, I guess. I remember those bathing caps. I don't know if women still use them, but when I was a kid, I remember my mother used to have one. It was like a rubber thing that really tight. It squeezes around your head so your hair doesn't get wet. But I'm sure women probably still use them.
Yeah. All right. I really got to point this out. We know he's facing the lagoon. If we did not know in context that he's looking to capture that butterfly there, this would be a very creepy moment just the way he's staring at that lagoon with Marianne in there.
Well, he's not looking at the lagoon yet. Right now, he's looking up because the butterfly's on top of his hat.
Yeah, but we went straight from the lagoon to this look on Gilligan's face.
Well, let me go back here. If you saw the video, it only looks like this because you remember I'm showing it still every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I know. It's just the way you captured it. It's just the way you captured it. It's just the way you captured it.
Okay.
That's made it even worse. Just the look on the face just be like, if you didn't know that in context, you just see it went from that to that, and look at the pictures. It's just the creepy look on his face as he's staring at Marianne. It'd be like he's staring at Marianne in the lagoon.
I know, and I apologize sometimes when I get it caught on these stills on a funny, like an edit or a funny look on their face. So that does happen.
Okay, so Nemesis of Eden says, good to know, Gorilla. I'm currently playing on Skogley's PS4 right now. Hopefully to get my own soon enough. I'd be grateful to be introduced to anybody. Think. Okay, I'll I'll talk to Simple Jack live there, see if we can figure something out. Because I think that's what he streams from. He might have a PS5 but he has at least a PS4. He streams from his Battlefield 2042.
Very cool. Yeah. So yeah, definitely Nemesis of Eden. You've come to the right place. So we kind of, I know I have to play every few seconds here, but we have Marianne, who apparently is drowning and screaming for help. And Gilligan notices and hears this. And there she is. And we have Gilligan rushing to the rescue, and he dives into the water to save Marianne.
And she panics and tries to drown him.
Right, there. Which really does happen. That's why if you ever go to rescue somebody who's drowning, they will do whatever they can to stay up on top of the surface, including pull you down. So it's not all beautiful and easy like they show in the movies and the TV shows. Sometimes it can be very deadly for the person trying to help. And hearing all the ruckus, here's the skipper. And now Gilligan is drowning too. So they're both screaming for help. And Skipper hears this. I love this scene. It just shows, and there's no stuntman. Alan Hale does this in one scene. And he hears them screaming for help. Bam, right into the water to help them. Of course, as we can all tell, they're not very far out. So the water is probably not very deep there. But, that's not neither here nor there. So here we have the skipper grabbing Marianne and Gilligan. And the headhunter is watching from afar, from behind the bushes.
Yeah.
And our brave skipper pulls out both of them from the water. And of course, he's carrying Gilligan. And we cut to later on, and there's that boat. I don't know why they should have had a different scene without a boat, but it's funny. I never realized that when I was a kid. It's like, yeah, I remember seeing the boat every week, but the boat's been destroyed several episodes back. But
but in all fairness, it was probably fuzzier on your TVs back then.
No. I always remember seeing the boat. I remember this scene. It wasn't that fuzzy. It's just when you're a kid, you don't put the two and two together.
Okay.
And also, another thing, when I was a kid, I don't know if they were showing these episodes in proper order or not.
Probably not. Probably the first time. Okay, this scene really kind of irritated me a little bit. I know this is all for comedy and all that, but they're worshiping Skipper just like he's a damn hero, but they forget all the fact that Gilligan tried to rescue Marianne, and Marianne made it almost impossible for him to rescue her. And here Skipper's getting all the credit.
All right. Well, that's why they're going to show Gilligan sulking around and being depressed the way he is, because he did try to be the hero and he's not getting any attention. So they do address that.
Yeah. And Nemesis says, good to know, Gorilla. We already read that one. It says, I love the free frames to capture some truly hilarious moments.
Yes, they absolutely do.
And then Nemesis says, oh, dude, some people have literally been knocked out otherwise. They will inadvertently drown their rescuer.
They will, and it's happened. Hello, Hoff. How are you doing there?
Bro, I'm doing good, man.
All right.
I can't see myself because of that comment in my face, but
there you are.
You need to see my beautiful face here because I look like Jimmy Hart from WWF. You guys said WWF. All right.
If you'd rather, I turn my camera on and you can see my ugly face.
The thing is, I didn't want to jump in and like interrupt this conversation. I love Gilligan's Island. I didn't know you were doing a deep dive on episodes. This is fascinating to me. I don't want to come in here and like a wrecking ball and like just ruin this. I'm really interested in what you guys are saying. But if I grew up on this show, man.
All right.
The thing is, I own that DVD of Gilligan's Island. What is it? Return or Escape from Gilligan's Island?
Well, there was three movies, right? There were three movies.
I bought it for $1 at Walmart. It's not even a full DVD case. It's one of those that's like super thin.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to waste enough money on plastic to put it out there. I never watched it. I felt it would ruin it for me. But if I will go to the conversation you guys are having, going back to the boat, and I'm not trying to detract from the episodes you guys are talking about right now, but do you guys remember that really early episode of Gilligan's Island where they tried to use sap and syrup to repair the boat? And
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, when the boat was destroyed.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's talk about Gilligan's Island, man. There's a lot of things here. I love the show. A lot of things that make the show continue. Like the professor makes a ham radio out of coconuts. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and we covered that episode. What's interesting is everything he did to science made sense, and it is possible. He didn't make a radio, but what he did was the batteries were dead in their radio, and he made a way of recharging their batteries. The batteries were rechargeable. I didn't, when I was a kid, I didn't know all that was possible. And I was just like, oh yeah, professor makes everything out of coconuts. But now that I'm older and I watched that episode for the first time in many, many years, when I took electronics, they taught us the same thing, how to make a crystal radio and how to power it with citrus acid from oranges and lemons and things like that. And using pennies. So when we watched that episode, I actually did look it up and I covered it. And that is actually physically possible to recharge batteries that way. It would take a long time to recharge batteries, but it is possible.
Once again, not to detract from the statement, but using acid and all that kind of things. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Baghdad battery that they used back in ancient times to generate electricity, where they just had like copper wires and acids in there, and they could figure out how to power things up. And that's like kind of a thing about like a theory about how they built the pyramids. Once again, not trying to distract from Gilligan's Island, man. I didn't know that was actually possible, I guess these shows were way more accurate back in the day.
Well, they were, and I have the book here that I read from. That's by Sherwood Schwartz, the producer, and he said that he tried to keep it scientifically accurate as possible whenever he brought up the professor's inventions. And I'm glad they had the episode, because out of context, when you talk to people who've seen, oh yeah, I saw Gilligan's Island a long time ago, and even Gorilla and I were thinking, oh, there's no way they're going to be on the island for 15 years and that radio's still going to work. There's no way the batteries are going to last. And that's why I'm glad that they had that episode where they covered that, where the batteries were dead and they couldn't get the radio to work, and they figured out how to way of recharging the batteries. And I'm glad they covered that. So as you watch these episodes, you realize they do cover a lot of things that you don't normally think about. They covered hunger, where their crops were dying. They covered drought, and where they had no water and they were thirsty and they had nothing to drink. Hey, they call me nobody. How are you doing there? Welcome.
Hi guys, I had to jump in. Okay, he brings up between Baghdad battery and what the professor does are exactly the same thing. They are not batteries. They are called voltaic cells. You use acid and you use two opposite metals. Copper and zinc works best, but you can use copper and nickel. And what you'll get is one is called the anode and one is the ground or something like that.
Okay.
Regardless, what you end up with is when you dunk those into each side of a beaker of weak acid, even lemon juice works just fine. You can do it with a lemon, as you mentioned, with a penny on one side and a little strip of zinc on the other. Put some clips on it, put it to a light bulb, and it'll light up.
Yes. Look at nobody coming in here and saving Hoff's booty on that one, because
no, it's entirely possible.
I don't have the
so-called Baghdad batteries work. They're not batteries. They're called voltaic cells.
Nobody. Cheers to you, bro.
Yeah, and that's old science. Voltaic cells are old science. Some of our first huge electrical experiments were hundreds of voltaic cells linked together in series to build up the electric charge. But because it's only 1.5 volts per cell, and that's a constant that doesn't seem to change regardless of what you use as materials. So, but if you link a bunch of them together, you can really hurt yourself. Like it'll build up an awful lot of DC in a big hurry.
Absolutely, yes. And it's great because you guys are both right. Yeah, it goes back for many, many years, even before we actually discovered our electricity.
Oh, I think we discovered electricity a lot further back.
Well, right. I mean the official, Benjamin Franklin story.
Yeah. Well, actually, the official story really is. What's his name? It's an Irishman. He got pissing around with sparks and things, and just kept going with it. And he actually makes the world's first generator. It's a DC generator, but it works.
Let's be honest, nobody discovered electricity. They used how to harness it. Lightning storms have been around for all of times.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely.
But they learned how to harness it. And Nikola Tesla, man, I'm very into that guy. I'm not going to go into anything. This is a Gilligan's Island podcast or show, but like he knew how to harness technology. When it comes to these things, which I guess we're still relevant here when we're going back to the ham radio thing we're talking about.
Yeah, let's get back to the ham radio. All I wanted to jump in is to say everything the professor does actually works. The stir sticks, if they're different metals on wires and such, and they're stirring up a weak acid, it would do it. Absolutely.
And he does, and he even mentions the items that they use. He said, I'm going to need a couple pennies, we're going to need some fruit, and I'm going to need strips of metal. He even lists everything that he needed. It's just that I guess the only thing where they're maybe stretching is, they just happen to have everything they needed on that boat. But oh well. I mean, so far what we've discovered, they've had a typewriter, they've had everything on that boat.
Oh shit, yeah. Like it's amazing the crap that they still had on that boat.
I know, right?
Well, and I mentioned that in the comments. Right now, look at Thurston Howell. How much film did they really have? How many fucking flash bulbs? I mean, come on, man.
Well,
nobody carried more than about 12 flash bulbs on any trip, and maybe 2 rolls of film.
Well, we covered this in my first Gilligan's Island stream, but supposedly, according to lore, not necessarily canon, but lore, all of them were on their way to a tropic resort on vacation. So that would make sense. They would bring extra film and bulbs.
Okay, I'll buy that.
And within the timeline of Gilligan's Island, they have not been on the island a year yet. I'm assuming that each season is a year. So right now they've been on the island, I'm guessing around 8 months. Wouldn't you say, Gorilla, somewhere around there? Because we're about 3/4 of the way through the first season.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I'll buy that. They could still have film and bulbs at this point. Sure.
Right. And that also explains why the girls have so many clothing and everything, because they were headed to a resort. They were planning on being on vacation. And I'll make this quick. Ginger Grant was scheduled to perform at this resort. She was hoping it was going to boost her career. So that's one reason why she has plenty of dresses. Marianne won a contest. She was in Kansas. She won a contest because normally she wouldn't be able to afford this resort. And the resort is co-owned by the Howells, by the way. And Marianne brought clothing and skimpy outfits because she was hoping to nab herself a husband. And Skipper and Gilligan ran this charter boat that took visitors to and from that resort. And the Howells, Mrs. Howell wanted to take the boat because you could take the 3-hour tour, the scenic route to the resort.
3-hour tour.
Right. You could take the 3-hour scenic tour to the resort, or you could take a more direct.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. I hear you. What's up?
Oh.
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Gorilla, your mic's cutting out, Gorilla.
Yeah, I just started having a little bit of a connection issue. I think I got it fixed.
Right, but okay, so the Skipper and Gilligan had a boat that chartered. They were in the employ of Mr. Howell, and you had 2 ways to get to that resort, and that was you had a direct route, or you could take the 3-hour scenic route. Mrs. Howell wanted to take the scenic route. Mr. Howell was going to take the direct route, but Mrs. Howell accidentally forgot something in the limo, and Mr. Howell went to take her which she had forgotten, and then that's when he accidentally got stuck on the boat when it left the dock. So that's how they all ended up on that boat, according to lore, like I said. And let me get caught up on this on the chat here really quick.
Yeah,
You-
Nepson says they probably had electricity since Gubba, aka Tep.
Gobekli Tepe. There's 2 Tepes now. They found another one.
Okay.
This particular what that weird word is it's a so far they've dated it as far back as 14,500 years ago, when we were supposed to be hunter-gatherers and there was no civilizations, and yet somebody built this place. And now they since found another one that's even fucking older.
Oh, that's cool.
Guys, fellas, I found it. What I was talking about earlier. Look.
There it is.
Escape from Gilligan's Island. Look, it's the thinnest DVD box you can imagine. I bought it for 99 cents almost a decade ago. Still haven't watched it. You know what? I'm going to watch it tonight. Screw it, dude. I was just so scared this would ruin me.
Oops.
Yeah, ruin my my whole opinion of Gilligan's Island, because the whole thing about Gilligan's Island is they're trapped there. Them getting out of the island, man, that's sad.
I'm not going to drop any serious spoilers on you, but I'm just going to tell you 2 things. Ginger ain't in it, and it sucks.
Oh yeah, but there's a different it looks like there's a different Ginger.
Yeah, there's a different Ginger.
There's a different Ginger. Judith Baldwin.
Let me see here. So I'm trying. I don't know this camera well enough yet. There you go. So here's the cover. Rescue from Gilligan. Yeah, Bob Denver's looking a little older here. Alan Hale always looks great. Yeah, yes. No. But yeah, is that the Ginger that's not the right Ginger?
Right. What happened was this is the first of the 3 movies. This was made 15 years after the series ended. And what happened was
they put the skipper on there twice as well as Gilligan. Go ahead though.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, what happened was Tina Louise was holding out for too much money. They did ask her to come back, and she was like, "Oh, because at that point she thought that it was a detriment to her career because she had been typecast. So she was holding out for too much money. And during the negotiation process, they were running out of time. They had to get the movie filmed, so they hired Judith Baldwin to replace her. Judith Baldwin was very nice and sweet. She was worried that she wouldn't be accepted and that she wouldn't feel at home with the castaways because, she was new. But what happened was at the last minute, just as they were getting ready to start filming, Tina Louise came back and, "Oh, okay, I'll do it. But then by then it was too late. They had already started production with Judith Baldwin. So Tina Louise, for being a little too greedy and a little late to the part, that's why she wasn't in it. But at the last minute, she did agree to do it. But by then it was too late. They were already producing the movie with Judith Baldwin in the role. And that's by the way, yes, and the other castaways did accept Judith Baldwin immediately. Of course they would. They were actually like a family.
Before you take me down from being the star right now, there's a couple things I want to say. That reminds me of, first and foremost, Back to the Future, when they replaced the really, really good-looking girl in the first movie with a decent. Yeah, I know Elizabeth Shue. She's still pretty good-looking. But
so they replaced a 10 with an 8.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. But who am I to judge? But before you take me off this as being the star of the show, which I appreciate it, I would like to read to you the back of this.
Please do, yes.
So this is the back of this 99-cent DVD I bought, probably at Ollie's, I think. No, it was Walmart.
Yeah, that's those cheap cases. I hated those. I remember those. I remember the ones that were worse where the front was cardboard and the back was plastic.
That's so thin. Yep. I'm almost for it, though, dude. You can save so much space with this. And they don't put any good they don't put any cool inserts in them anymore anyway. So I'm almost cool with this. You know what I mean? But it is a cheap way, and that's why it was 99 cents. But let me and I'm all about that. If all movies were 99 cents with a case like this, Hoff is all for it. Let's do that. Let's do it. Because I'm all about physical media.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all about that stuff, and I'm not going to get into that. But I will read the back of this for you right now.
Okay.
This is the back of the 99-cent DVD I bought, Rescue from Gilligan's Island. I have not watched this. I've owned this for almost a decade. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. I'm just scared too because I didn't want to know the ending. I didn't want to ruin Gilligan's Island. But
it doesn't.
Okay, well it's approximately 95 minutes in length. It doesn't give me a rating. It's unrated, so who knows?
It was made for television, so that's why it's not rated.
Damn, dude, I was hoping well, I guess it's not the original Ginger. But if the original Mary Ann's on there, unrated, I'm all about that. Let me read this for you. It's very short. 15 years after the SS Minnow's infamous 3-hour tour, Gilligan and his fellow shipwrecked friends have found a way off the island for good, thrust back into reality. Will the 7 companions find their re-entry to civilization more difficult than anticipated? So do they... Okay, don't spoil this actually, you can spoil it for me. I don't care. This movie's like 80 years old.
Well, we are going to be covering those movies after we're done with the 3 seasons.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is you don't have to spoil it. What I'm guessing, what my prediction is here, the first half of the movie is them getting off the island, and the second half of them is trying to adjust to society. And I might be wrong on that. It might just be like the first 90 minutes of them are trying to get off the island, and the last 5 are them trying to readjust. But I don't know. I'm so excited to watch this because I've had it for 10 years, and I paid $1 for it, and I still haven't.
Well, you got a good price for it. And I will tell you, you're almost right. If I would guess, I would say I'd say out of that 90 minutes, about the first 20 maybe are them getting off the island and into civilization. Within the first 30 minutes, they're in civilization. And then 30 minutes are them trying to adapt to the civilization because obviously it changed in 15 years. And then I'm not going to give away the rest. Wrong. No, you were not wrong. Okay. And then the last 20 minutes or so, I will not give away. I encourage you to watch it. I
will, man. That's 99 cents I never used.
Right. So the third chapter of the movie, you guessed the first 2 almost, but the third chapter I will not reveal. I recommend you. I don't want to ruin it.
What do Skipper and Gilligan come clean and say that, hey, we're together? Is it something like that?
No, I don't think they're going to do something like that. They're not going to ruin the.
I mean, that was back in the day. We're not talking about woke culture anymore. That was back in the day. You couldn't really do that. But I was just making a joke. Anyways, you can take me off the big screen now. Thank you.
There we are.
It's not my show, but I appreciate you having me on, man. And cheers. Fun conversation.
No, it's all good. And we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Well, I'll share my review with you soon. And real quick, one more time before. Okay, I swear I'll shut the F up. I'll mute myself. I was so sad I could not be part of that Evil Dead stream last night, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it's right up against one of your big streams too, and I felt terrible.
Well, I mean, I've been doing Hoffcast at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays for like over a year now, plus, maybe almost 2 years. And dude, Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and all that stuff, Bruce Campbell, dude, like I am like a borderline expert on that stuff. And to miss out on that stream broke my heart, but I couldn't let down the bosses who expect me on my show every Tuesday.
Totally understandable. And your stream, your stream lasted till late too. I noticed because mine went on for almost 5 hours, and I know yours was 4 hours or so.
Same. I think that might have been the longest stream I've ever done. It might have been the longest one I've ever done, just like solo, like, you know what I mean? Like wild, man. Like sometimes I just think I don't have enough content, but it's not me anymore. It's the fact that I have a community of people who get me involved in other topics and ideas, and we have all these discussions, and they're awesome, man. Anyways, let's get back to Gilligan's Island. Stop talking about. Sorry. Let's get back to Gilligan's Island.
Oh, no problem. And if you ever get a chance to try to catch the Evil Dead on the rerun, because it was a blast. Everybody loved it. Yeah, they were all Evil Dead fans, so it was great to hear everybody sharing their stories and their love for the movie.
Man, I wish I could have been there, man. But I will watch it.
Well, I'm sorry it's on a Tuesday. It was hard for us to find a good day where everybody was available. Okay.
Tuesday is the Hoffcast night, and that's like literally like that's the night that we have rituals for hashtag not a cult. So I can't let anybody down. But man, I just really wish I could have been a part of that, man. Really wish I could have, and I will watch it back. Go ahead with the Gilligans, bro. Let's go with Gilligan.
If I can find another night that is convenient for our horror streams and move them, I'll let you know.
Or maybe pop culture. Maybe I will just have you on Hoffcast one night to just talk about Evil Dead, but just me and you. That'd be pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll bring over my crowd of people, the ones who were on the panel yesterday, because they all love talking about Evil. We talked for 5 hours, and we could have kept on going if we had to stop because it was so late. But we could have went on for more and more and more talking about it. So the last thing I was able to tell everybody is, I know we've got a lot to talk about and share, but we'll do that next week when we cover Dead by Dawn. So next week we'll pick up where we left off.
But I will try to be there as long as it's not a Tuesday. But yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, sorry, it is for now until I can find another day where people are available.
Well, I mean, I understand that, man. I get that, dude. Let's get back into Gilligan. Let's talk about Gilligan.
Okay,
buddy.
Here we have the skipper's all happy and gloating because he's now the hero of the day, and Mr. Howell is taking pictures of him, and there he is posing. And there's Mrs. Howell. And I do have the subtitles on. So if you'd like to read the subtitles, there they are. Yeah, what's funny is, Hoff, is I have when I show the subtitles on my shows, I change the font to try to match whatever the presentation is. So for Gilligan's Island here, these are my Gilligan's Island fonts. And last night when I did the Evil Dead, I was in such a hurry to get the stream started, I didn't get a chance to pull up a good font for the Evil Dead stream. So when we watched the Evil Dead last night, we were watching it with Gilligan's Island fonts, and it was really strange but yet weird. It was actually kind of fun watching that. So
I think it matches though.
It did. That's what we were thinking too. It almost did.
It,
Yeah, it almost does, because I don't know why, but it almost did match. It was kind of a strange coincidence. And here we are. Everybody's gloating over the skipper. And now they're talking about giving him medals of honor and all these kind of good things and an award. And see, here's where Gilligan's sulking already, because this is like you said, Gorilla. Gilligan does realize that he tried to save Marianne too. But, of course, instead he befell being a victim as well.
In this photo, no, go back to that last photo. It looked like Gilligan was looking at some Marianne booty there.
I think he's just sulking.
Was Bob Denver was he? Never mind. I'm gonna search it before I say it. But go ahead.
Bob Denver was married and had children. His wife's name was Dreama. And here's what they're talking about.
Wait.
In fact,
didn't the Bob Denver and Don Wells here do cocaine in the back room?
No.
The parts?
No. I don't know where you heard that, but definitely not.
I swear I heard it from you.
No. What I said was they didn't do it on this show, but in their private lives, those two smoked marijuana.
Oh, it was marijuana that there. Okay. I
Right.
swear we were talking about cocaine at the time.
No. And what happened was both of them at two different times in their lives got busted for possession. Bob Denver got busted, I believe it was about in the 1970s. And Dawn Wells, Marianne, she was busted in the 90s. She was pretty old when she got busted.
So we
They
got
were all doing it. They were all doing it. You know, it's just I don't know why they got busted. They should know everyone back then was doing it. Everyone now is doing it more than ever. Any kind.
Well, I mean, it
way
could have
worse.
been right. It could have been worse. I mean, this was the '60s. They could have been doing acid and cocaine like Gorilla said and all that, but they didn't. They just stuck to pot.
that we know of.
Gilligan on acid. That would be a great episode.
I think if they would have done heavier stuff, they wouldn't have lived as long as they did, because they did live pretty
That's true.
long lives. Marianne, Dawn Wells just passed away last year, or a year or two ago at the most.
Yeah, and the professor was a couple of years ago.
Yep. The only one left, obviously, is Tina Louise. And even the skipper's getting tired of having his picture taken. And here's where Mr. Howell's playing a reporter. Now our hero and the little girl that he rescued, and they want to get a story. And then, of course, we got them posing. And Gilligan in the background trying to be part of the picture. And Mr. Howell tells Gilligan to get out of the way.
All right. Nemesis says it was amazing.
Gilligan was jealous for sure. He wanted Marianne.
Yeah. Hey, Nemesis says it was amazing. I'm super glad I was part of the inaugural episode.
Show the text if you can.
Oh, yeah. Inaugural episode. I'm looking forward to episode 420. I'm locked in for Tuesdays. I personally can't do other days.
Gotcha, Nemesis. Thank you.
420 blaze.
And that's where Mr. Howell asks Marianne to show a little knee, and he calls it cheesecake.
Yeah. Nowadays, you get... You know, why didn't Mrs. Howell slap him across the face for that one?
I think at this point, Mrs. Howell is excited to honor the skipper. And I think she understands because Mr. Howell is using reporter language, possibly. And there's where Mr. Howell notices that there's a great angle to take a picture. And all excited, Gilligan sits down and poses. And that's when Mr. Howell tells Gilligan to move, that he's in the way of the shot. So Skipper and Marianne have a seat and pose for a picture.
This deepest dives on Gilligan continue.
Yes, at the beginning it is here.
Gilligan like this.
Right. At the beginning here, it is kind of for Gilligan. He's kind of pushed aside. And as you can see, he's not very happy.
Yeah, they're just being a dick to him.
And here's where Mrs. Howell is talking about famous heroes through history. And she's talking about one person who held his finger in a dike and saved the whole city. And Gilligan says, which one? And she holds up her pinky. I'm not quite sure, but I think it was this one. And here's where Gilligan's trying to explain. I swam out to save her. I dove in. I swam as fast as I could, but nobody's listening. They pretty much brush him off. And now he's pretty much talking to himself. And as he does, here we have Ginger coming. And there's the professor. And there they are, fawning over the skipper still. And Gilligan looking more depressed. And now they all pose together with Mrs. Howell.
Do you guys... I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And this is where Mr. Howell says he wants a group picture with everybody in it. So Gilligan's excited, thinking this is his chance to be in the picture. And Mr. Howell says, no, Gilligan, we want you to take the picture. And there we go. Everybody in the picture here except for Gilligan. Look at that. Look, and this is Howell is getting Mr. Howell.
That's so sad. That's oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry right now.
Right, I guess we're assuming that camera back then didn't have a timer if they had to have Gilligan hold the camera. But notice that Mr. Howell immediately has Ginger sit on his knee and look at Mrs. Howell, the look on her face.
Well, guess who's not getting some?
Right.
Guess
who's sitting by the
smoky grin on the skipper because he's got Marianne's cute little corn-fed butt on his knee.
Oh, yes.
They were all swingers back there. They were all swinging, you know?
Okay, half with you. At that point there, where's the proof? Where's the proof? I don't see
The
no
proof
lips,
is
little,
in the
little
pudding.
skippers
Look at the
running around.
picture.
I see
Look at
no
the
little
picture.
skippers
Proof's
running
in the pudding.
All right. Hey there, Oil Greg. Welcome.
Hello, Gray. Good to see you. Glad you're here.
And he walked in on fingering a dyke. No comment.
I wanted to ask you guys real quick. This is relevant, but not
Yes.
about Gilligan's Island. It's still relevant. Alan
Okay.
Hale, the skipper. Have you guys ever seen the movie Johnny Dangerously?
I have.
I saw it a long time ago.
He's like the cop who's reporting on what's going on with the radio. Great role in that movie. By the way, Johnny Dangerously, if you've never seen that movie, you gotta watch that movie. It's from the 80s and it's cheesy, but it's a good kind, man. The puns are so good. But that was like one of the first times I remembered seeing like the skipper outside of Gilligan, like Gilligan's Island. And I was like, oh shit, that's the same guy. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But going back to I'm not gonna stick around too much longer, bosses, or you bosses here. But I did want to say that these people were swinging back in the day. They were swinging. There's no doubt about that.
Well, that's when that was the decade of love, right? And they had peace and love and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I thought that was the 60s and 70s, and this was more like was this
60s.
the 60s? Okay.
1965.
Well, black and white. I thought they got way over black and white by then. But
No, 1965 was the last season that a lot of the networks filmed in black and white, and 1966 is when they officially adapted color.
Wow, the Technicolor. Yeah, no.
Right, because when it was as of 1965, filming in color was so expensive. Even though it was actually only about 30,000 more, it was more expensive, so they deemed it not worth it. But by the time 66 came around, they were all competing to be in color because that's when the big revolution of color TVs hit. So that's why the first seasons of Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, Gilligan's Island, and I believe Wild Wild West and several others, all those that I just mentioned, all premiered in 1965, and they all had the first seasons in black and white.
Well, I didn't know that. That's like really good information there, man. I didn't know all those shows, like they transitioned over. But I also have to say I can relate here at Hoffcast because I'm still on standard definition quality, and I'm trying to get to the HD one day.
Well, it looks pretty clear. And my camera is only 720p, but of course, as you guys see, I'm just using an avatar.
Well,
But
I mean, look, no, I used to have a bunch. I'm not going to go into this. I had a better camera. I bought a new microphone. I'd rather my sound be better than my video. So that's what I went with,
No, I understand too. I just bought a whole new mic system too, so I completely agree. The one I had before was pretty crappy.
Same. Well, it wasn't bad. It was just dipping out on me. It was old.
That's what mine was doing. It was a lapel mic, and it was dipping out all the time. But
Yeah.
since I replaced it, I've had better luck.
Dude, I haven't had any problems with this yet. Besides, I can't use my good camera with it. Let's get back to Gilligan's Island.
All right, Captain Infinity, welcome. Hey,
Welcome, Captain Infinity.
And he said the Pacific Ocean waves is bracing today. Whatever that's supposed to mean.
Very nice. Very nice.
Then,
Captain's in the summertime over there in New Zealand.
Yeah. Nev says is hoping he's doing awesome. Captain says, Hail Nemesis, have a great afternoon at the beach with my son. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast.
And according to Oiler Greg, Skipper played a cop in
Giant Spider Invasion. Yes, I was going to say that. I will be covering that on our horror stream.
I might be able to do that one. I might be able to handle
You
that.
can. That one's not gory.
Okay.
It's a low-budget independent movie made in a small town, and it's very quaint, but it's interesting because it stars Alan Hale And Barbara Hale, by the way, no relations. They were not related. They just happened to have the same last name. And Barbara Hale was Della Street on Perry Mason. So those two star in the giant spider invasion. And the skipper plays the sheriff. And, well, I guess I know it's spoilers. I don't want to give away too much. But the skipper gets killed by the giant spider. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
And when I was young and I saw that movie, I was like, oh, no, the skipper. He even acts like the skipper in that movie. He calls some guy in that movie Little Buddy. So,
all right.
Alan Hale is Alan Hale.
Yeah, Nemesis back in the 60s, they had to quote Steve Vai, peace and love and good happiness stuff.
Right. And also it helped too is before they had all the STDs and AIDS and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, AIDS wasn't around then. That didn't come around until the 80s. But
that's what I'm saying. They didn't have to worry about it back then. That's why they had free love and everybody, sleeping with each other and all that.
Okay. And Oiler Greg says, cool, Captain. I enjoy trips to the beach on nearby Galveston Island quite often in the Gulf of Mexico. I've been there one time. And Cap says, oh, that sounds pretty sweet. All right.
Yeah, it does.
All right, let's get back to Mrs. Howell bitch slapping Mr. Howell.
Right. And Mr. Howell sleeping alone tonight, apparently. And there we are, Gilligan not looking happy because he has to take the picture.
Oh, just throwing the camera back and walked away. Oh, just throwing it over my shoulder and walked away.
And looking at that camera now, it looks like it does have a timer. What do you know? Because you can see the timer right there. It's in the center, right by the lens.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the timer.
But if I was Gilligan, I'd just throw it over my shoulder and walk away.
Well, yeah, but then you're a poor sport. And Gilligan's not a poor sport, so he does take the picture. There's everybody congratulating each other, and Gilligan not looking happy. And just like I pointed out last week, Gilligan's walking away from the rest of them, and you can tell he walks past a studio light. And here's where Mrs. Howell notices that Gilligan's not happy. So she's assuming the role of psychiatrist, and she's trying to get to the bottom of the problem.
See, and this is what I was saying earlier.
About what?
This was actually a good episode that doesn't make the Mrs. Howell so late. She's actually doing something to help out.
Yes, she is. Well, she was also helping Ginger in the episode where Ginger wanted to be a movie star. Remember, Mrs. Howell first wanted that role, but then she gave it to Ginger. So she did realize. So every now and then, when it comes to it, Mrs. Howell does, same as Mr. Howell. When the chips are down, they'll rise to the occasion.
Well, that one and the movie one, I wouldn't have really counted that one as Mrs. Howell helping out. She just felt bad and just gave up her part. This one, she's actually analyzing what's wrong with Gilligan, and she comes up with the solution.
Yes. And
Ginger was Jessica Rabbit before Jessica Rabbit was invented or even thought of.
Oh, that's absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny too because Tina Louise as Ginger was very beautiful, and it's interesting how after Gilligan's Island how much she hated that character and tried to distance herself away from that character as much as she could.
Bro, in the chat, Oiler Greg says cheers, and I cannot. I have to abide by that. So cheers.
All right.
But Jessica Rabbit character, it's a lot of ladies, as you want to call them. I wouldn't want to use a derogatory term. During Halloween, that's a big costume, and I think it started back with what I was talking about, where Ginger was the real the feminine kind of thing back in the TV show. I wasn't gonna say Fatale. I wouldn't know she would do a fatality like Mortal Kombat, but definitely a femme fatale. I was just making a joke there. But yeah, she was like the bombshell on the show, man. She was like, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Even before I hit the old puberty, I was all about Ginger, dude. Something in me was just like,
No, I was always a Marianne guy.
I'm not talking crap about Marianne. Marianne is gorgeous as well. I'm just saying Ginger had that sex appeal,
Nah, but you need that sweet old innocent farm girl will go along with it.
Well, and like we mentioned before, between the two, Marianne got much more fan mail. So Tina Louise was a little jealous about that as well.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything negative about Marianne. Okay, let me say this. Okay, I'm gonna keep this clean. Marianne is the kind of girl I would like to have a relationship with, maybe marry one day. Hypothetically speaking about fictional characters here.
Well, right. So they say,
But Ginger's the one you'd want to have a good time with, and just and that's it. You wouldn't want to have anything else after that.
Right. I would say Marianne's the one you want to bring home to parents and marry. But if you're out on the town and you want to look good, you want to have Ginger next to you, right?
That's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Right. You wanna what? How do they say it? Lady on the streets, but a freak in the sheets.
So here's where Gilligan says that the main thing that was bothering him is he was sitting on a hat and a feather that was poking him. So now we cut back here with Mr. Howell playing golf again, and he uses avocado pits, if you guys are wondering. And here's where Mrs. Howell's all happy because she figures she has come to the solution of what is wrong with Gilligan. So she says, I thought you'd want to hear about Gilligan. And their skipper says, what's wrong with my little buddy? And she tells him that she has realized that he's jealous, that he's upset because Skipper's getting all the acclaim and the attention for being a hero. And Gilligan is depressed because he wasn't the hero. Now, she doesn't say it word for word, but she basically says that Gilligan tells her what we were talking about earlier, that he did try to help Marianne, but he wasn't able to. And he feels ashamed for that. And here's where now they're all feeling guilty because they hadn't thought about it. So Skipper says, what's wrong with envying me? After all, I am a hero. And that's Gilligan's problem. You're a hero and he's not, says Mrs. Howell. That's exactly the problem, yes. That makes him feel small and insignificant, she says. It gives him a sense of inferiority.
Deepest dive ever into Gilligan's Island, and I'm loving it. This is like some real deep diving. Holy moly, man. I'm trying to keep up, but wow, I just breaking every scene down, figuring out the social situations, the reactions between the characters, and what's going on here, man. Dude, I'm sorry to interrupt, dude. I applaud this. It's hard for me to keep up, honestly. I'm a little tired right now, but damn, dude, I applaud what you're doing right now, and I will shut up so you can continue.
Oh no, you're good. No, but you're totally right. Watching this when you're just watching an episode, the jokes are flying so fast you don't have time to really stop and think about what's going on with each scene. But when we break it down here each week, there's a lot more to think about and process mentally that the castaways are going through.
You do this every week with Gilligan's Island?
2 episodes every week.
Well, I would like to be part of this as much as I can.
Well, you're welcome to be here. Yeah, we'd love to have you here.
Awesome.
And we also have a
great time. I'm having a great time.
Okay, yeah, we covered the first going back, our first stream is I covered the original inspirations for Gilligan's Island, where Sherwood Schwartz got the idea, and then we covered the original unaired pilot, and then from there we've been covering 2 episodes every week, and we're hoping to cover each of the 3 seasons, and then hopefully the 3 movies after that. And during these reviews,
hold on, 3 movies.
3 movies. You
I
have
thought it was just this one. I thought
that's just the first one.
What?
Yes.
I thought this was the end of it all.
Nope.
Oh man. Okay, I gotta catch up. I gotta get back into the Gilligan. I'm not being facetious, dude. This show I loved growing up, dude. It was literally, dude. I went when I went off air for a few minutes. I tried to find my damn Gilligan's hat to put on to wear. I don't know where it is. It's moved recently,
I've
but
had
I
one
want to
too.
give it a
I know the feel. I used to have one. Yes, everybody's got to have one at one point. Now I never had a skipper hat, but I did have a Gilligan hat.
I'm not a skipper hat. Well, I a similar. Nah, I don't have a skipper hat either. No, but something
Well, that's
that's
only
kind of like a
because that's
Navy hat.
right. Because if you wear the skipper hat, everybody's going to point that out. That's the problem. The Gilligan hat, a few people will point it out, but not a lot because it's a lot more common.
But also, I mean, me personally, as my personality, I'm far more Gilligan than Skipper. Like, yeah, I'm far more Gilligan than Skipper. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Hop, just to get you caught up, do you know why Skipper and Gilligan work together? Why they're friends like they are?
I mean, I just know Gilligan's his first mate. I don't know how they met.
Gilligan saved a skipper's life.
How? From a shark attack?
They were both, according to, and they brought this up in the previous episodes. They were both serving together in the military, which is I believe they said the Navy. And what happened was a bomb came loose on the deck. They were both working on the deck, and a bomb came loose, and it was rolling towards the skipper and was about to crush him. And Gilligan jumped and pushed Skipper out of the way and saved his life.
Dude, Captain America, the first Avenger movie, totally ripped that off from Gilligan's Island.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, but dude, that's awesome, man. Gilligan has the biggest heart in the world. He has no common sense. That's why he's the lovable goof. And what I was going to say earlier is that I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm a huge fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I really feel like Charlie's character is based on Gilligan, like so much. I really do. Just like an extreme version of Gilligan, like a modern Gilligan. I don't know if any of you guys watch It's Always Sunny, but like Charlie and Gilligan are almost like very, very similar to me.
I've heard of it, and I know it has Danny DeVito. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Dude, you have to watch it. You have to. Oh my gosh. I'm okay. Listen. Before I'll shut up, I promise. There's people who tell you to watch this show and to watch that show. And I don't watch that many shows, but I'm a diehard fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, man. That show is, in my opinion, the funniest comedy, right up there with Seinfeld. And like the character of Charlie Kelly in that show is very similar to the character of Gilligan. Like I see the influence. So
well, I know it's been on the air for a long time, so obviously it's successful.
Oh, it's the best. It's my favorite comedy. That and Seinfeld, yeah.
I'm a little more old-fashioned. My favorite comedies were All in the Family and Sanford and Son.
Barney Miller.
Great shows as well.
Oh, Barney Miller, absolutely. And here's where Mr. Howell is starting to realize what Mrs. Howell is saying. Inferiority complex. Heavens, I hope it isn't catchy. And of course, the skipper says, well, what can we do to cure this? And Mrs. Howell explained to them, Gilligan needs some sort of recognition. And Skipper comes up with an idea. I know just the guy who can arrange it, he says. So here we are with the Skipper and Ginger, and we have a fallen tree, and Skipper has an idea where he's going to make himself look like he's trapped under the tree. And that's what he's explaining to Ginger. So he basically crawls under the tree there and puts sand around his legs. And he explains to Ginger, and Gilligan's going to save me. Get it? And he says right there, I'm trapped here under here, and I'll lie here and moan and groan. And he tells her to go get Gilligan for help. And she's telling him that his moans and groans are not believable, that he needs to be better because obviously she's an actress. And of course, she's criticizing his performance. She's telling him to moan and groan from your diaphragm. So that's why he's pushing on his belly there.
Yeah. So like Gilligan would even notice.
Yeah, exactly. Like Gilligan would know, right? Like there's time for that when you're trying to rescue somebody. So there he is with his moaning and groaning. And there goes Ginger there to go get Gilligan.
She straight up left his ass.
Well, he told her to go get Gilligan, so the Gilligan could come and save him.
What if it came to Hoff here, I would want to play a victim in front of a lady who is gorgeous in order to have that like Florence Nightingale effect, where like maybe you could help me out here.
Oh yeah, that's always a
no, I wouldn't go say go get Gilligan. That seems a little bit of homeowners to me. But
no, they're doing that. Remember,
to make Gilligan feel better.
Yeah, they're doing that to make Gilligan feel better. Remember the last scene where he was depressed?
Okay. I get what's going on here, but still, I appreciate the fact that this show was equal on relationship terms. No one tried to really like. There were some slights every now and then, but for the most part, no one tried to finagle anyone and sleep with someone else that they shouldn't have.
No, Sherwood Schwartz. That was against the rules for Sherwood Schwartz. He did not want that.
You haven't seen the episode where they find supposed gold?
Yes, we covered that a few weeks ago.
They go absolutely bug shit, man.
no, I think what Hoff was talking about was them having interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but like in modern day media, you see that all the time. Back then, they didn't like make it like front and forward, like And
that's
maybe
right. That's exactly why I like the older stuff. But that's exactly why I like the older stuff, because as soon as they start having interrelationships, it ruins everything. Same with Star Trek. That's why I don't like the new Trek. Gene Roddenberry would not allow interpersonal relationships on his series, and I'm glad he did that, because then it makes the show suck. And every show now, that's all it is. Every show now, that's all they make. It's all revolved around interpersonal relationships, people talking about their feelings in hallways, and all that is like, no. That's why I prefer this older stuff.
I'm gonna go.
What bothers me about that stuff? It's cheap filler. Come on, it is. It's cheap.
No,
it's exactly it. Right.
I'm gonna go Hofcast on this real quick. It's because people are so into social media, and I'll say this nicely, Prawn. You know what I'm saying, Prawn. That people don't know how to build actual relationships with people face to face anymore. They would rather be behind a screen and insult people because they think their lives suck. But if you would really go out and just try to talk to people and connect with people, you're going to have a much better time. And sorry to go like Hofcast on that, but that's a big belief of mine, is that I'm not calling people who hide behind keyboards cowards. Most of them are. But what I'm saying is that's the society that is being placed on us, is to be all introverts at this point and not have any kind of actual interaction with real people. That's why the masks were a thing. That's why the social distancing was a thing. Allegedly, in my opinion, not trying to get your stream hurt here, pop culture, but that really boils down to how people don't have real relationships anymore and why they're so mad about it. I'll shut up.
Well, I think the reason why, or at least in my opinion, the reason why modern shows, in my opinion, they revolve around so much interpersonal relationships is due to lack of creative talent in the writer's room. They just don't have the creative talent to come up with ideas. So they just fill it with things they've seen on television.
But that goes hand in hand. They don't have the creative talent to write something about a real relationship because they don't know how to relate to another person. Because they spend all their time online on Twitter and social medias and stuff that they have no idea what real interaction with another person is like. And that's why it comes off this way, in my opinion.
Back then, for movies and television, they had to compete for the job. They had to prove that they were capable and they could write good and they could write well. And now all that's out the window, and now it's just if you're the certain race or the certain color, you're hired, and that's why TV and movies are like they are.
There's a checklist, and this all boils down. You're making me even go farther into Hofcast territory here, where it goes down to the New World Order and puppets and the way the narrative needs to be played. But let me tell you all something, man. We're taking over. As much as Google and the internet and all these people who own it, they want to scrub all the good information that we need to hear. We are still fighting for it, man, and we'll fight till the, at least I'm fighting till the end for this. And I did not mean to make your stream about Gilligan's Island about this, but I think it goes back to what we're watching right now, where it was a whole different point of culture where these things were happening, and there were different roles for people, and they weren't looked down upon. Like, you could have a role in a show as the goofy, lovable guy, and or the good-looking gal, and not everyone who just can't relate to looking like that, because nobody looks the same. First and foremost, they get PO'd about it. I'm getting sick of that, and that's why I'm very appreciative that you're showing these old clips, man. I'll shut up, dude. Just mute me. I'm sorry. I love you guys. Cheers. Mute me, dude. I don't mean to be.
Well, hopefully that won't be necessary. I don't usually like to mute people, but
I don't think I've said anything offensive, but mute me if I'm just like going on too long.
Okay.
I didn't mute you. You muted yourself.
Yeah. That's why I don't hate stream. A lot of people, they get their clicks from, oh wow, Discovery is the worst thing ever, let's talk about it. Or, oh, She-Hulk is horrible, let's talk about it. Because that's hate streaming, and that's how they get their clicks, and that's how they get their super chats. And I'm not one of those. I prefer streaming things that I love, and because I don't like the negativity. I don't care if somebody says, well, stream something you hate, talk about how bad Marvel is now, and it'll get you clicks. I don't care. I don't care if it'll get me clicks. I'm not going to cover it. I'm not going to cover it.
Same, dude. Same. You've heard me talk about this probably. That's the way I am. I'm not going to torture myself with bad content just so I can complain about it to get clicks. Not worth it to my soul or my well-being to put that kind of nonsense into my brain.
It is. Some of the biggest channels out there, that's all it is just hate every week on.
I was talking about this recently. I talked about this last night on my show, man. I said there are so many people out there who do reviews of bad things, and one or two of them will do the most views, and all the bottom feeders will literally just copy every almost word for verbatim just to get the clicks. And you know what the sad thing is, man? It works. It does. But I will not do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
That's where I took the opposite approach there on Thursdays there. When I'd say, just give me a damn bad show or episode, and I'll tell you what's good about it.
Right. Gorilla's referring to, he has what's called defensive chat, or defensive Thursdays, where he'll pick something bad, except for Microwave Massacre. He'll take something bad and defend it.
Hey, in my defense, I was having a bad day, and that show was just so fucking bad. And you told me I watched it wrong. I watched it when I was sober and alone.
Well, we will be covering that on my horror stream eventually someday.
Okay. All right, let's get back to the show here. Because it's getting on to 10:30.
Skipper, right, everybody. Gorilla's 2 hours ahead of me, so it's late for him. He has to get up early, and he's got to deal with a storm and really bad weather. He's in Minnesota right now. So I want to make sure he does get to bed without having to stay up too late. And so we have the Skipper here, moaning and groaning for help. And in the background, we have the headhunter approaching.
Why don't you read that comment by Nemesis of Eden?
I hadn't got to. I was going to wait for a couple to pile up. He said,
I'm sorry.
Gorilla, read them as they come out, please. That's just it. We don't want them to pile up, because then it'll take too long to get caught up.
I do three at a time.
Well, read them as they come out if you can, so that way we can keep them caught up.
I did, because I missed the stream last night. I wanted to talk a little bit.
Yeah. One of my favorite comedians growing up was Army of Darkness.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it is a comedy by that point, by the time you get to the third movie.
The first one was a cheap B movie. They're all B movies. The first one was cheap, college movie, barely got funded. Second one, mixed in the comedy. Third one was action adventure with a slight bit of horror. And I loved every bit of it. I even loved the Ash versus Evil Dead series and everything like that, man, dude, it's so good. I'm a huge Bruce Campbell fan, but once again, we don't have to go into Evil Dead. We can keep talking about Gilligan, man. I just wanted to make sure that that me and you can have this conversation sometime there.
Absolutely, we will. Yes, theory. And I agree with you on Evil Dead, all except for I didn't like the third season of the Ash versus Evil Dead. I hated the third season, but other than that, I liked the first two seasons. By the third season, Ash was a cameo in his own series, and the whole show was centered around Lucy Lawless and the other girl. I can't remember her name now, and I hated that season.
Oh, that girl's hot though, but you know,
is that why we watch Evil Dead? No, right? No. So yeah, I'm just like Star Trek. I don't watch Star Trek so I can stare at Jerry of 9-7 and whatever her name was. When Star Trek started bringing sex into it, I tuned out because that's not what I tune in for. If I want to see sex, I'll watch porn.
Hey, pop culture, in all fairness, Kirk got his own piece of the action quite a few times.
But I was there to watch the episodes. And it's like, great, yes, the women were good looking, yes, but are they going to revolve half the show around some woman, just, you know what I'm talking about. That's when they start having relationships with the each cast. Like the first episode of Enterprise, there was two of them bathing naked together and caressing each other. It's like, no, I'm out.
The one that pissed me off the most was Deep Space Nine. You guys, that was a soap opera in space.
Oh, yeah, that's what I keep saying. When I say that, people attack me, but that's exactly what I say, especially with those horrible subplots. My God.
Well, it was garbage. It was so boring.
Well, I will speak
pop
up
culture. Pop culture. I did not mean to hijack the stream with this conversation. It's just it came up in the chat, and I really did not mean to go on a tangent. I want to keep this about the Gilligan stream.
No, it's okay.
That's what it's about.
It's okay. We could stray off a little bit every now and then, but
okay. Well, as long as you're cool with that. But I did not mean to do the tangent there, man.
That's okay.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Cheers to you, and cheers to all you here in the panel and all you watching, man. I really appreciate you and love you guys. Cheers.
I will say on behalf of DS9 lovers, they'll say. When you bring the subject, well, it gets better by the third season. Well, I'm not going to watch 3 seasons of shit until it gets better. Unless they can do like TOS where they hit the ground running in the very first season, I'm not going to bother. So that's my opinion. That's also why I don't like TNG. So here we have Gilligan's chilling in the hut, and Ginger's coming and yelling for help. And she even yells, Gilligan, help somebody, help the skipper. And Gilligan hears this and rushes to the rescue. And there we have Marianne washing clothes in their homemade wash machine, which they've shown before. This is not the first time they've shown them wash machine, by the way. And here's where Ginger's explaining to Gilligan, a tree fell on him. You've got to save his life. And Gilligan immediately, actually, it's hard to tell in the clips here. Let me show this here. I've got to save his life. Only one thing, which way, he says. And she points to the left, saying that away. And of course, the first thing Gilligan does is run into the clothesline there and back and then onto the ground. But eventually he does get the right direction.
Yeah.
And they head that way to save the skipper.
It's always fun to watch someone clothesline themselves. We used to have to do that to kids. That's why the kids are no longer allowed to play Red Rover anymore at school, is because whenever the kid they didn't like comes along, they clothesline him right. They lift their arms up and clothesline him right on the neck.
Oh, when I was in the military, I was stationed on bases around the fuel supplies by the airport, the landing strip, and all that. They would have fuel buildings and fuel facilities, storage. And they would have wires running from one place to another, and it was very, very thin wire with no labels, and it was not lit, or it was not marked in any way. So that happened all the time. People would run into those wires. I never figured out why they would have them like that, but it happened to me a couple times.
I'm guessing that the commanders there got their jocks off watching people get clotheslined.
Possibly, but it was ridiculous. But it's the military. You're not going to complain. So here we are. The skipper is moaning and groaning for help, and here we come, Ginger and Gilligan running to the rescue. And just as the headhunter gets close, then the headhunter hears Ginger and Gilligan approaching and decides to back off. And they yell to Skipper, "Don't lose your head." And here we are. Gilligan is trying to figure out the situation. And Skipper even tells him, "Gilligan, you're the only one that can save me." There's Gilligan's look like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then Skipper's having to spell it out to him pretty much. "Gilligan, I don't mean to tell you how to be a hero. But if I were you, I would think about Archimedes and his rule." And of course, Gilligan doesn't know what he's talking about. What and who? Archimedes. Yeah, well, isn't it kind of late to be bringing him up? He's been dead for thousands or hundreds of years, is what the skipper tells him.
Hey, I found it.
What's that?
This.
Oh, the hat. Very cool. There it is.
My Gilligan hat, dude.
There's your Gilligan hat.
Got my Gilligan booty hat on right now. Ready for the stream, man. Ready to go. Actually, I can't be on too much longer, but I will stick around for a little bit, man. I'm having so much fun here.
Cool. I'm glad you're having fun.
I got the Gilligan hat. Dude.
So we have Gilligan here trying to figure out the situation, and he tries to lift the tree with no success. And this is where Skipper tries to explain to him. He says, "Gilligan, if you were lying under here and I was you," he tries to explain Gilligan he needs to try to maybe use a lever. And now he talks about putting a rope and then tying it around that branch and using that as a lever to lift the branch. And by the way, I bring this up every stream and I bring it up again. Please watch this episode away from the stream where you can enjoy the jokes, because there are so many I'm not able to cover them. As you can tell, since we're going through slides, there's a lot that I'm not able to mention, because if I do mention too much, I will get a copyright strike. So that's why, unfortunately, I've got to skip like in 5-second chunks.
Will you get a strike or a claim? See, I don't know.
Claim, I guess, is
the fine
where.
line.
Well, claim. I don't know. I always accidentally say it, but I guess it's a claim.
Well, I've gotten strikes and claims. I really don't know where the fine line is, man. When I show something,
well,
so
the best you can do is
don't.
Best you can do is just protest it. And I've been lucky so far, and so is Gorilla, right, Gorilla?
Well, I've gotten a few of them, but I've won all of them but one, and that one, that guy was just being a dick. But if you're doing, otherwise, every single one I've won.
Nice.
I've been pushing the boundaries on the Walton stream just to see what I could get away with. I think I gotten it down to the T almost. I just got a little carried away on my last Walton's review.
Right, you got to keep those clips very short, just a few seconds. And we've learned that some companies are a little more stricter than others. So here we are. Gilligan's trying to tie the rope around the branch and save Skipper, and the girls are loving it as they're watching. And they're already preemptively excited about
ladies
Gilligan rescuing them. So they're doing this because they know Gilligan's listening. So Mrs. House said, "This calls for a celebration. Let's go back and celebrate." And Gilligan tries to lift the log. And that's what Skipper reminds him, but our hero hasn't done anything yet.
Bro, let's go back to the last frame real quick.
What heart? This one?
If a tree that size landed on your femurs, you're done.
There's a very good chance of that, yes. But they've got to make it look big enough to where they're not able to lift it. Anything smaller, people would be like, "Why don't they just lift that?"
Skipper should have never walked again, especially with no medical help there, But
they definitely don't have a doctor.
Take a look at the size of that log, man. Knees are done.
And just think if he just lifted up right now.
Well, he does. He tries to lift it, but the rope breaks.
No, but look where he positioned himself.
Right. He accidentally, as the rope. Let me see if I can cover that here.
No, he had the log right between his.
Right, here's where he's struggling to lift the log, but unfortunately he's standing in the wrong place. So that's what happens.
Oh, can you see that purposely putting the legs right underneath it?
Well, it's
I mean,
part
that's
of the
part
gag,
of the
right?
joke. That's part of the plot, you know. That's written into the script, of course.
No, but you can see where he purposely just did that, like the acting doing it. But anyhow, when he first had it tied around there, he was standing right over the log. It's like, just lift up right now, real fast.
That's all he would have had to do, right? And of course, Skipper telling him, "Nice going, Gilligan." Of course. And he's saying they're not making vines like they used to.
Known as the F up. He'll F up anything. They got a great plan every episode. And then for some reason, they don't just tell Gilligan to go back to the hut. They say, "Hey, Gilligan, you go out there and make this happen." And you think you'd learn, especially the professor or the skipper. Hey, don't send this guy out to do a job that's important. Let's just keep him back in that hut. And
you mean like Joe Biden?
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Nobody. That's not where I was going with that, but I do agree with that.
Sorry, that's where my brain went with it. As soon as you said, never underestimate his ability to F things up. Joe Biden.
Right. And we're all thinking the same thing. We all know that. I mean, they're trying their best to hide it, but it's very obvious. It's like, yeah, just hand him a script. Don't let him say whatever he wants to say and keep him away from the children.
Hey, this isn't my stream, so I'm not trying to get into political stuff. This is a Gilligan's Island stream, so let's try to keep it on track here.
Okay, so here's where Gilligan is apologizing, saying, "I'm sorry, but they don't make vines like they used to." And here's where they decide they better go get the professor. He'll know what to do. And as they run to get the professor, here's the headhunter again, and he advances.
Wow, what is that, dude?
Headhunter.
What's that? Sorry, there's two people talking. What was that?
We don't get to see enough of this guy. Not really. He shows up.
Right, he's like a plot device, but they'll show more of him here soon.
Yeah, Hoff, he has human skeleton skulls and other shit on his belt, man.
That's badass.
And you notice that one skull is dented, which skulls don't do. They break. So that tells us that the skulls must be made out of rubber, I'm guessing. But hey, who cares? You don't notice that when you're a kid.
Why are there so many scenes of Gilligan and Skipper laying next to each other?
In the series,
like
I'm not sure what you mean.
Intentionally wanted that log to land on him so he could lay next to the skipper. And I feel like there's a little bit of homoerotic kind of attention there, relationship.
No.
But that's it.
Yeah,
I guarantee you
don't go there.
Yeah, but they didn't.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But to be honest, it ain't funny.
It's just it detracts from the humor of the show.
Yeah, this was a much more innocent time, man. That shit wasn't. It didn't occur to people.
Was it really though?
Yes, it really was.
Were people? I mean,
dude, I grew up from 1966 and up through the 70s, and I can tell you, this is a completely fucking different world than the one you live in.
I'll make an argument here, though, and nobody has to agree with me.
This is not the world I grew up in at all.
I get that, nobody, and I'll make an argument, and I'm not arguing, but I'll make a point here. What if it's like, I'm not saying these guys were homoerotic homeowners or anything like that, but what if the same thing was going on and just wasn't presented the way it is now, because homosexuals have been around for forever, there's no doubt about that, but and I'm not trying to overlook, I'm not trying to overlook this or overstate this scene.
Look, I'm not saying
I was
society
making
didn't
a
know about
joke.
these things.
I was
I'm just
making
saying
a
that it
joke
was
to
never
begin with.
portrayed on television. Everything was kept innocent and
Because
nice.
you couldn't. Maybe they wanted to.
No, they portrayed gays on TV. At this time, in this era, we had Charles Nelson Riley, we had Paul Lynde. So
Yep,
yeah, it's just
absolutely.
right. It just doesn't fit into the context of this show.
And nobody cared. That was the biggest thing. Is everybody thought they were
Yeah.
funny, and that was that.
Right, it wasn't
Nobody
in your
cared.
face like it is now. Right, that's the thing. It wasn't in your face like it is
But
now.
even Paul Lynde back then, they didn't like tout him as being that guy. You know, everyone knew it, but it wasn't like he was on Twitter because it didn't existed. But it was like he was like, oh, he's like some kind of hero or something. And once again, before anyone gets upset about what I just said, I made a joke about that. And I'm not serious about it, but I'm just saying, let's look at possibilities here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
Okay.
that Gilligan and Skipper were homeowners. What I'm saying is
There's
this
nothing
is
to it.
funny.
Sorry, but
That-
it's-
what I- no,
it's-
listen. What I'm saying is this scene is funny with them laying together under a log.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. And don't get too upset about anything Hoff says. Just don't ever do that.
Okay,
because
can we
Hoff's-
move on, please?
I mean, you're getting too upset, but yes, we can.
No, I'm not. I'm just, please, let's go.
Okay, so we have the headhunter here advancing on them. And Skipper says he hopes so. He has a terrible headache. And Gilligan asks, do you have any aspirin? He says, no, I haven't got any aspirin. And this is where, just as the headhunter gets ready to strike, he hears the voices of the other castaways coming as they bring the professor. Here we go. The professor comes to help. And he says, I see. Well, we'll have you out in a jiffy. Come on, girls. So they all band together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And they lift the log. And Skipper and Gilligan are able to get out. And here they are saying, we knew that the professor would know what to do. And of course, this does not help Gilligan any. And here they're saying, now we can have our party. And unfortunately, it backfired. And now everyone's celebrating the professor as a hero. And there they all go and leave Gilligan. As you can see, Gilligan's not very happy.
Hold on. I missed it. What happened to the headhunter?
He's hiding in the
He
bushes.
backed off again.
He backed
and again,
off when he...
said we never get to see that guy much.
No,
until the
he
end.
does.
Just wondering.
Not
he
yet.
seemed
No,
to be a threat,
not.
but then not really.
He's hiding in the bushes when he heard them coming. He's trying to get them while they're alone, while they're each alone. And then Gilligan sees him and says, maybe I should have asked that headhunter there for a hand. And that's when Gilligan takes a double take and realizes that, oh no, that's a headhunter.
And he has that oh shit look on his face. He might have to change his pants there.
Right. And that's when Gilligan heads off towards the huts to warn everyone. And we cut to later that evening. Interlude, I guess they call it. And we have Mrs. Hell talking to Gilligan, trying to, once again, convince him that he really did not see what he actually saw. And she's wearing what I call an ice cream suit. Yes, Gorilla.
So how many times has Gilligan always been proven right when he's seen something, but yet when he says he's seen something, like they're always, oh, you didn't see it. You're just seeing things. You're being delusional. How many times does he have to be proven right?
Well, right. And once again, though, but it's also like the Boy Who Cried Wolf story theory, is they're thinking he's doing that for attention. So that's another reason why they're kind of dismissing the thought.
I'm quick tangent. I'm not going to go into this movie, but that makes the same sense to me as Ghostbusters 1 versus Ghostbusters 2. When everything that happened in Ghostbusters 1 in New York City, and everyone saw it, and then Ghostbusters 2 happens, and everyone was like, you Ghostbusters are full of it. Yeah, it's all, that never happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but the rest of the castaways haven't seen the headhunter yet, though. Only Gilligan. Once the castaways see the headhunter, they believe it. So
my favorite one where Gilligan sees something, shits himself, and runs back, tells everyone, and no one believes him, is the giant spider episode. And when the
Oh,
skipper
yes.
finally sees it, he nearly has a conniption. It's beautiful. It's funny as fuck.
Yeah, nobody. What's interesting too is I'm doing right now. I'm working on a separate video on the actor who played that spider, and that actor is the same one who played the Horta on Star Trek and the Megado, the
Oh,
white
no
ape with the
kidding!
horns.
Because, like, again, you
Right.
can actually see the legs now and again
Yes.
under the weird shag frills and stuff. It's
Hey,
hilarious.
cheers to a new day.
And that same spider made 2 appearances on Lost in Space, among other shows too. Yes, he played in a lot of roles. Like I said, I'm doing a video. It's just that there's so much that he did. I've got all the clips ready to go. I'm just putting them in order, and I have to do the narration. But I'm going to do it'll be a short video. I'll be producing and have on my channel. That is basically a short video on the life of. His name was Janos Prohaska, an Hungarian man a stuntman and a costume. He created his own costumes. So a lot of times when you see gorillas, bears, apes, or the giant spiders in these 60s TV series, it was the same man. He was on I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched. He was on The Lucy Show, all those. So here we are with Gilligan trying to convince Mrs. Howell. It's true he had skulls tied around his waist and a big spear, he tells her. And, of course, she's not really paying attention. She says, now you just drink this. She's giving him a sedative.
I wish I could get a hold of some of the drugs that the Howells got.
Yeah, they established in one of the very first episodes that they have an entire suitcase full of drugs. So here's where he's going. He took the sip of what she gave him, and he's going on explaining. You should have seen his eyes. His face was painted in. And he asked her what that was, and she says, that'll make you sleep. It's a sedative. And, of course, Gilligan immediately says, thanks, Mrs. Howell, but you're wasting your time. And just as he says that, he passes out. He says, those things don't work on me. I remember once, and then bonk, he's out. So she tucks him in there. And there she is, all pleased with herself. And there's Skipper and Mr. Howell outside the hut. And she explained to them, he's sleeping now. I've given him a sedative, she says. And here's where she's explaining to them that now he's having delusions about the headhunter. And they explain this is a job that calls for tact, finesse, and imagination. So they scheme to try to break Gilligan of his habit of seeing headhunters. So Skipper once again has an idea of what he'll do. So Mrs. Howell is yelling for help and screaming for help. And Gilligan hears that, wakes up, rushes out of the hut, and jumps over the table. And there she is. Now, of course, what we actually have is the Skipper disguised as a headhunter. Because they're trying to convince Gilligan. They're using this here to make Gilligan a hero. So Mrs. Howell is posing as a victim. As you'll see, there's a little spider there on the ground over there on the left. And she's acting like she needs help from the spider. And I'm sorry they haven't come up with the idea about the Skipper being the headhunter yet. But in this scene, she's screaming for help because of the spider. And here's our first shot of more than one hut gorilla. What do you think, huh? Out of all these episodes we've watched so far, they've used the exterior of one hut for everybody's hut. They'll show the same exterior, which is the Gilligan and Skipper's hut, the same exterior as the Hal hut, the same exterior as the Professor hut, the same exterior as Marianne and Ginger's hut. But this is the first scene where they show 2 separate huts. And here's Mrs. Howell telling Gilligan, it's me, Gilligan, would you come in? And he's at the door. He knocks, of course. And here's where Gilligan comes in. And she says, it's a tarantula. Save me. And she says, don't argue. Save me. And he says, okay, be calm, Mrs. Howell. I'll take care of him. And Gilligan is looking around, and he grabs a broom. And there's Mrs. Howell acting like a damsel in distress, of course. I'm going to try to catch this here without getting a copyright strike. I'll try to keep it quick. And Gilligan, unfortunately, accidentally, of course, can't even do that right. Hits his head on the beam and knocks himself out.
Yeah.
Here they're coming up.
fellas, I'm sorry, I gotta get going. I'll keep the stream up, but I got some chores to do, some laundry, get prepared for the workday tomorrow and whatnot. But I do appreciate you having me so much here tonight, pop culture curator.
We're glad to have you here. I'm glad you came by.
No, yeah, I'd like to be by often, and I want to have you on my show very soon as well, man. Great content here, great content. Make sure if you're not already giving the thumbs up to this stream or subscribed to this Mr. Pop Culture Curator, then make sure you're up there and you're subscribed, you're liking, you're ringing the bell, and make sure it says all, not personalized. So they call me nobody. We're bosses, you know that. Always a pleasure to see you, man. But I gotta get going. I will try to. I'm going to keep watching. But you all
take her easy, Hoff.
Thank you for having me on. Cheers, peace, brothers.
We'll see ya.
I look forward to being on your next stream, Hoff. You know, like, don't worry about it, man. I got a little shit going on. I know this sounds stupid, but I've had a cat for 2 years. And today I just got another kitten, and there's conflict, and it's it's getting on my nerves.
Oh, you're all good, man. Hey, we're gonna keep in touch. Shameless plug. Make sure you check out Hoffcast. Only because I'm not promoting myself, is because I want to keep in touch with all you. That's why
Softcast streams are actually really fun, guys. If you're not into it, you should be.
Well, it is. He has a great channel. I agree, and I'm looking forward to being on your channel as well, Hoff. I did drop a link in the chat there for your channel for everybody. If you're listening, please check that out. He has a wonderful channel.
You guys are just so kind. I can't believe it. You all have a great night. I'm going to be watching. Don't worry, I'll be watching. I just got to do laundry, do some dishes, stuff like that. real stuff. And I apologize that I have to dip out. But what a great stream tonight. I had so much fun. I love you guys. Peace out. Hoff signing off. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right, take care, sir. So here we have the castaways coming up with more ideas to try to make Gilligan look like a hero. So now where Skipper and Marianne are conniving and coming up with a plan.
And here's the Marianne shorts.
I know, right? And what's interesting too is in these black and white episodes, she's wearing nylons. And here's where they're still trying to convince that the headhunter is a figment of their imagination. Or of Gilligan's imagination, that is. This is why, by the way, like I said, we're skipping over a lot of the jokes because I'm not able to repeat them without getting a claim. So please do watch this episode. And here's where they were basically tossing around different ideas. But here's where Skipper says, "Hey, Gilligan just gave me a great idea. Let's go somewhere where we can be in private," he says.
Also, you know exactly what that means. Yeah, I seriously said that. I seen that coming from like a mile away.
Right. So here's where the Skipper is there, and he's explaining to Mrs. Howell and Marianne, "I had to find a place where we could talk without being heard. Now, here's my idea," he says. "We've got to make Gilligan do something heroic, right? And he ought to do it in front of everyone. So now Gilligan's got headhunters on the brain. So let's let him see a real headhunter." And Marianne says, "Mrs. Howell, I think you have another customer for your couch." And Skipper says, "No, I'll dress up as a headhunter, and I'll take you all prisoners," he says. And they said, "What if Gilligan finds out?" And he said, "Don't worry, he'll never find out."
You know,
and as
guys,
he said,
even as a kid, even as a kid, this seemed like a really dumb thing to do. Like you're gonna get your head caved in by a big old rock or something.
Right, you better watch out. Gilligan just may believe you too much. But fortunately, Skipper's a tough man. So as just as a Skipper is so sure of himself, and he explains the whole plan, and they said, "What if Gilligan finds out?" And he says, "Don't worry, he'll never find out." As he says that, he pulls a banana out of the bush, and they all run away. And then we find out there is Gilligan inside the bush with a bunch of bananas,
Now
listening to the whole
notice he was
thing.
right between Marianne and Mrs. Howell.
Was he
But-
inside the bush or behind it?
Behind
This,
it.
of course, sets up the subtlety of the entire fucking joke.
Oh yeah, well that's true too. And here they are coming through here saying that it's a silly idea. Ginger doesn't really believe it's going to work. And here's as they're talking, they run into the headhunter, but they hadn't realized yet that that's not the Skipper. And Ginger even says, "Hey Skipper, I was just telling her I think it's silly for you to dress up like a headhunter in the first place." And that's when they realize that it's not the Skipper. And they're yelling for help, and the professor hears this. And here we are with the Howells talking about the same idea. I mean, why can't I be the headhunter? Mr. Howell says, of course, once again wanting to be the center of attention, like a typical Howell. And Mrs. Howell says, well, after all, dear, it was his idea, talking about the Skipper. So here's where they come across, and they see the professor, Ginger, and Marianne tied on posts, tied up 2 posts. And then this is where Mr. Howell says, well, it's rather overdoing it, isn't it? So they're thinking they're a little overreacting. And Mrs. Howell is just loving it. And here's where they're laughing, and they see the headhunter, and they still think it's the Skipper. If you want to look like a head center, says Mr. Howell, those feathers are ridiculous. You look like a showgirl. And that's where the headhunter advances and growls. And they realize that, oh no, they're in deep doo-doo. And we cut back to the hut here. And here we are, have Skipper dressing up as a headhunter, unaware of what's going on with the rest of the castaways.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oil Greg says, spider attack. Call Skipper. Then Oil Greg says, night, Hoff. Hoffcast says, thanks so much for having me by and dropping my links. I had an awesome time with y'all. Well, yeah, a good time with you too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Oiler Greg says cheers and greetings, Lemon Pie.
Hey, Lemon Pie, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Good to see you. So here we have the Skipper practicing in front of a mirror to be a headhunter. And he hears Gilligan coming. And well, first he congratulates himself, and of course he looks ridiculous. Not bad if I say so myself, he says. And he hears Gilligan, and he says, gosh, I can't let Gilligan see me like this. So Skipper dips out and hides. And as he does that, Gilligan comes in looking for Skipper. So you don't have to get all dressed up like a headhunter, says Gilligan, trying to explain to Skipper that he already knows about the whole thing and he doesn't have to do it. But by this point, Skipper is gone and he doesn't hear it. And Gilligan goes wandering through the bushes, and here we have... So this is where I was talking about earlier. They do show more of the headhunter here at this point, now that he has them captured. It's just that I think the headhunter wanted to get them 1 or 2 at a time. Yeah, I guess maybe because he figured he'd be outnumbered.
Yeah. In one of these scenes coming up, you can actually see those poles aren't in the ground.
Well, they're probably just standing there holding the poles up, I imagine, considering they're standing on a set.
Yeah, because Mr. House, you see, wiggles back and forth like he could have ran off at any time. Or at least tried hopping away.
Exactly right. And here they're mumbling, trying to yell for help. And Gilligan comes along. And Gilligan, of course, is thinking that they're putting up an act just for him. And, of course, Mrs. Howell, not gagged, Mr. and Mrs. Howell are not gagged. And Mrs. Howell says, Gilligan, save us, you've got to save our lives. And Gilligan is not taking her seriously. And she's trying to say, Gilligan, save us from the headhunter. But of course, Gilligan thinks they're talking about the skipper. And that's why Gilligan's smiling. He's not taking it seriously. And Mr. Howell says, yes, save you from the headhunter. Yes, he's going to kill us. And Gilligan, of course, brushes him off, saying, oh, yeah, well, don't worry about it, Mr. Howell. It's like Mrs. Howell says, he's a figment of my imagination. And Mr. Howell says, Mrs. Howell is wrong. The headhunter is for real. So Gilligan still doesn't really take it seriously. He's saying, if there's a headhunter here, I'd like to meet him, he says. And he turns around. Well, Mr. Howell does say, Mr. Gilligan, meet Mr. Headhunter. And Gilligan turns around and thinks that's the skipper. And nonchalantly says, well, what do you know? It is a headhunter. And the headhunter pulls out his, let me go back here so that you guys can see what's going on here. His spear, and throws it at Gilligan. But fortunately, he got Gilligan in between the arm and the chest, so Gilligan is just acting like he's injured. What's that?
He's a bad shot if he missed him that close.
Especially a headhunter, you figured he'd have a lot more practice, right?
Yeah.
And especially as soon as Gilligan turned his back, in reality, yes, he would have definitely got him right in the back. This is a comedy, thank goodness. And Mrs. Howell's got her eyes closed. I can't look. Who's winning now? And they're saying, and Mr. Howell says, Gilligan's all right, but I've got to bet on the headhunter. So they're pretty much narrating what's happening. More wood for your fire? Arg.
Yeah.
Let me try to go back a little bit here. It's kind of like an action scene, so I want to try to show it without getting flagged here, guys. Remember, Gilligan still thinks this is the skipper.
I remember the scene.
And there we are. And so the headhunter is off after Gilligan.
Yeah. All right. There's one thing. Slight change to make this scene so much better.
What's that?
Instead of the music that they were playing, they started playing yakety sax.
Right.
This was totally a called for yakety sax moment.
Right, but you have to remember, back when this was made, they wanted the music to be original. They're not going to use somebody else's material. Sorry, I had to grab my dog. And there we are. The headhunter tries to hit Gilligan on the side. Gilligan steps out of the way, and the knife sticks into the tree. Gilligan pulls it out for him. And Gilligan's still thinking that he's talking to the skipper. He says, you know, if they were to give out Oscars for headhunters. And then Gilligan stands behind the tree and says, okay, skipper, make her good. Actually says, make it look good. And the headhunter, of course, slices down with the blade and slices the tree in half.
Which would be impossible.
Yeah, right, unless he has super strength. Oh, fuck. All right. Had to cough there for a minute. And then here he is still being chased, and he says, are you all right, Skipper? That's why he's still smiling. And then here's where Skipper walks into the scene, and Gilligan hasn't quite realized what's going on, and then Gilligan does realize there's actually two of them, and there's a real headhunter. And they yell, run, Skipper, run, run, run. And here's where Gilligan's saying, I'll save you, Skipper. And I'm going to try to show this here also without getting stricken. I can. So Gilligan knocks the headhunter into the fire. And of course, the headhunter has that dress skirt, which catches on fire.
No, that'd be doing more. That would actually be in flames, not actually just smoke in there.
Go ahead.
That's all dry grass. That will burst right into flames.
All right, you think so, right?
Yeah, this would make the great for the. This would be. I almost want to dub Yaxie Sax over the scene. You know, if I know if I maybe I'll talk to Pickles on that.
Yeah, but it was as a kid, it was hilarious to watch him run with his ass smoking like that.
Oh, exactly. Right, and then swimming across that lagoon. Of course, they speed the film up a little bit there to give it the extra humor, but it's hilarious. And there we are. Everybody's praising Gilligan because he is an actual hero. He actually did defeat the headhunter and scared him off. And then Gilligan's realizing, yeah, it was kind of brave, wasn't it? And Gilligan says, make me one promise. If I ever try to do something like that again, please stop me. And of course, as Gilligan walks past Skipper, he steps on his foot. Again, he always does. And here we are cut to later that evening. And Gilligan is doing an acceptance speech. And I'm sure I am proud that I did something brave. Work that is no surprise to me, of course. And of course, everybody's bored. They're not really into it. I think they're a little tired of all these speeches lately. Well, take my Uncle Ramsey, for instance. Yeah, where he was in the First World War with the Lost Battalion. He was the guide. So I guess being brave just kind of comes natural. So they're kind of humoring him there. And Skipper, knowing that everybody's bored, is kind of rushing Gilligan to finish this speech. This is, I think, kind of like a joke on the Oscars. And Gilligan says, and in conclusion, I would like to say, and Skipper holds up the skull here. And Gilligan immediately passes out, and they laugh. And we have the end of our episode. And what I want to point out is this. That canoe that the headhunter left is still behind there on the beach. He took off without it. So either off screen after the episode, he came back and got the canoe, or some point you think they would have found the canoe, right? They could have used it to get off the island. Or at least take it for a short distance.
Found on the island there, after like 3 or 4 episodes, you know, they didn't realize they were there, or they had the grill on there. And the last episode, and you know what, they've been on there half a year, and they hadn't seen the grill before.
Right, and that's not the last time we're going to see a primate on this series. Okay, so next we are going to make our next episode that we'll cover, and we will try to get through this. I apologize, everybody. I know it's late. I know we've already gone over 2 hours, and it's like, my goodness, I try to keep these relatively short. So I'm going to try to get through this one as quick as possible without being in too much of a rush. But our next episode up for review will be the Return of Wrongway Feldman. It is from season 1, episode 24. And this is it was originally aired on March 13th, 1965.
All right. The one thing I want to say about that episode, that's the first episode that I didn't want to kick Gilligan's ass, but instead I wanted to kick Wrongway Feldman's ass.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because he was a complete dick there, and he was being an asshole. You know, there's no reason he could have he found his way to the island there. He even went back to civilization. He could have told, hey, these guys are there, but I want to stay there and not be bothered. He could have totally stayed on the damn island, you know, but got the other ones rescued, but he didn't.
Oh, I agree. He was very selfish in this episode, sad to say. But of course, he's not going to rescue the castaways, because then we wouldn't have a show. So we have our opening title here and our opening song, and we are introduced to our heroes. Well, I can't wait till we get to the color episodes. There's going to be so much I want to point out during this opening sequence in color. And we have our faithful ship. And here we are introduced to the cast, of course. And the rest are here on Gilligan's Island, of course. And we have our opening establishing shot, and created by the fantastic, wonderful Sherwood Schwartz. Produced by Jack Arnold, and we have our credits, and we open up with an airplane. And the airplane's flying around, and we have, apparently the castaways have built the telescope And Gilligan spots the plane. Oh yeah, let me see, says the skipper.
In both these episodes, I have a question to ask. This
Sure.
is a jungle-covered island. Where the hell is he landing a wheeled airplane?
They've never showed a distance shot, but he's taken off before because this is the return. And in the original episode, they did clear an area where he could take off. They just haven't showed that big of an area because whenever they show the huts, it's filmed inside of a soundstage.
Yeah.
And the lagoon set here, which is on the outside of the soundstage, I'm not sure if they have a big enough area. So I guess they leave it to the imagination would be the answer.
Don't worry, I brought all these issues up on the first one. I was bitching and moaning about this whole thing.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about
serious
that.
inconsistencies going on there.
Right, and this is not the last time we'll see a plane taking off or landing on the island. There's
another one? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, remember, we covered it in the first review. Remember, one of the Gilligan's Island. I don't want to ruin the movies.
No, it's okay.
So here's where they're all excited, and they do see through the telescope that it's Wrongway Feldman. So they already know who he is, and they remember him, and they even say that's Wrongway Feldman. And here they are gathering together, and here comes Wrongway Feldman. And they're all excited, and they run around to greet him as he gets out of the plane. And they ask the girls, why don't you fix Wrongway Feldman something to eat? And as he's explaining about a trip that he had a crash. He was attacked by a giant eagle. And, of course, they're listening to him. And, of course, the first thing Skipper says, all right, well, Wrongway, but what about the rescue? And he says, boy, it took 2 months to get this plane off the ground, he said. By the way, I'm sure you guys noticed that this is a newer plane than he had in the first episode, isn't it? I mean, it looks like it's not even a biplane. But in the first episode, he had an older plane. So basically what he has now is a newer plane, but it has the same name, Spirit of the Bronx. And like I covered in the first episode, Wrongway Feldman, this is based on a real person. Wrongway Corrigan was the name of a real person that he was supposed to be flying, off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember, but I think it was from New York to Long Island. But instead he ended up in, I believe, France. So this is loosely based on a real character. And now they say, well, aren't you going to rescue us? And he says, why would I do that? And they say, so we can get off the island. And he says, well, tell the truth, he doesn't know where he's at. So he's saying that he landed there accidentally again. But he doesn't want to leave, unfortunately, is the only difference. And he's explaining to them, and this is another, by the way, this right here is we'll revisit this idea here in that movie that Hoff brought up. Rescue from Gilligan's Island, they kind of mentioned this here because Wrongway Feldman says that because remember in the first, let me try to explain this in context. In the first episode, Wrongway Feldman, he had been on the island for many, many years. And the castaways helped him get his plane running. And he left and went back to civilization, but he did not tell civilization about the castaways. So now he's explaining that when he got back to civilization, he didn't like it. He didn't like the advancement in technology. And here's where he's going on and on about the noise, the crowds, the people, the subways, the trains, and all that stuff. And he says this is why he does not want to go back. Now he's saying that he wants to stay here on the island for the rest of his life. And he says, I'm not leaving this island. We're better off here. And they're still trying to convince him, of course, no, please, we want to get rescued. And they explain to him, we're homesick. We miss the States, they tell him. And he says, he goes, all that hustle, the bustle, the trains, the subways, whistles, the noise, no privacy. Ho, ho, this is the life, he says.
Is he wrong, though? Really? Is he wrong?
No, he's not.
Desert Island for a couple of years.
Yeah, especially if I had Marianne and Ginger there, huh? Why not? But of course, I would miss beef and steak and stuff like that. There are a few things I would miss.
Well, pack a cooler.
It'd have to be a pretty big one. And you better smoke your meat so they don't rot. I tried, and they said, well, if you want to live in a tropical paradise, go to Yellowstone. And he says, I tried that already. Even the bears are civilized. And the skipper said, but you want to be on the island for the rest of your life? And he says, yes. He goes, last time you ordered a steak, you got a T-bone, and apparently he wanted it rare. He wanted it well done, and he got it rare instead. And this was all red and juicy inside, he says. Yeah, and as he's saying that, they're salivating about a steak.
No, well, he ordered a T-bone. He got a fillet.
A fillet.
Milan.
And the fillet was like 2 or 3 inches thick. They indicate it with their fingers, but it's like 2 or 3 inches thick fillet. My God, can you imagine the cost of the steak that size now?
Yeah, that's just being a dick there. He knows they haven't seen it. They want to go home to civilization. He's bringing about all the things that he's fucking missing. Did that to Skipper, Gilligan, Ginger. He's just being a fucking dick that makes you want to just beat the shit out of him. Like usually it's Gilligan I want to beat the shit out of just because Gilligan's always fucking things up. But no, it's Wrongway Feldman this time.
Now it's Wrongway Feldman.
So I guess Gilligan's getting a break from getting an ass whooping this week.
And this is where Wrongway Feldman explains that he couldn't even get the waitress's attention. She was busy with some glutton with a French pastry tray, all that chocolate and custard and whipped cream. And you can see Gilligan's listening to this. And here's where Skipper indicates the steak. And here's where Wrongway says, I don't know what you want to go back there for ever. And they're listening to this. You can see they're heartbroken. And Skipper says, tell me about that steak again. Poor Skipper. And here come the Howells, of course, conniving. And they're already trying to come up with ideas about Feldman. Don't worry about the old Wolf of Wall Street, says Mr. Howell. He has a plan. And Mr. Howell is going to promise Wrongway Feldman one of their oil wells. And Lovey says, you're going to give him an oil well? And he says, no, I said promise. And that's when he said, leave it to the Wolf of Wall Street. So, of course, Mr. Howell's not going to actually give him. So that keeps to his character.
That's asking for a lawsuit right there.
Well, as long as you don't get it in writing. I'm sure Mr. Howell's smart enough for that, right? You don't get it in writing.
Yeah, but deceptive promises and all that. He's been in court probably a bunch of... Depending on how many times he's been in court for that and how many... And if they can get a class action lawsuit going, too.
Well, no, a class action means a whole...
Oh, I can tell you honestly that your word and handshake mean absolutely nothing in court.
Right.
Nothing.
And a class action lawsuit, Gorilla, means a bunch of people. Right now, this would just be a suit against Wrongway Feldman and Mr. Howell. And if that was the case, Mr. Howell, I'm sure, can afford better lawyers. So I think we know what would happen.
But if Mr. Howell has a history of doing that where he goes, oh, I'll promise him this and never fulfill that promise, he can get a bunch of people in on that.
Right, but like Mr. Nobody said, or they call me Nobody, sorry. Right, it doesn't matter how many people he promises. If they don't get actual signatures, it really doesn't mean anything in court. That's the first thing a judge is going to tell them.
And again, I agree with Gorilla. Overall, throughout this series, Howell is a dick. He takes advantage of Gilligan many times for his personal profit or gain. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh, he does many times. And not only that, also for labor. They get Gilligan to be a servant at some points in some of the episodes. He's like serving them drinks. So the Howells do what rich people would actually naturally do in this environment, I'm guessing. And also using bribes, using their money as an influence, too. And here's where Mrs. Howell leaves and says, good luck, darling. And then Mr. Howell says, you leave, I'll handle him. This is funny because Mr. Howell tries to talk about the oil well. And Mr. Howell says, I understand that you're really serious about not going back. And Wrongway says, it's something you would know nothing about. It does not concern money because Wrongway Feldman's already anticipating a bribe from Mr. Howell. So he's saying it does not concern money, that he's not interested in money. And Mr. Howell says, you misjudge me. I've been doing a lot of thinking. And then Wrongway Feldman says, why? Have we gone off the gold standard? And of course we have not. No, you're laughing at me. I agree with you completely, says Mr. Howell. I think the world's in a terrible mess. You must be kidding. No, I mean it. Good thing that you're not over there. Now with all that spending and building, says Wrongway. And now here's where he's explaining to them and those flimsy new apartments in New York. And Mr. Howell says, they're so expensive. I know, I own one, says Mr. Howell. And here's where Wrongway says, yes, that your rents are the lowest in that whole area. And that this is hilarious here. And Mr. Howell sees, listening to this, is finding out that since he's been gone, he hasn't been raising the rents on the apartments that he owns. So his apartments that he owns have the lowest rent in that entire area. And Wrongway Feldman also tells him that his apartments are the only ones that have rent control. And then Mr. Howell's realizing, I have the lowest rents. And what's hilarious is you can see that there, Mr. Howell starts crying when he hears this. And he tells him it's the only one that's still under rent control, which is more than Mr. Howell can stand to hear.
Him just being a dick.
Right. And Wrongway Feldman telling Mr. Howell.
Greedy bastard.
Right. And that, which is funny, he's basically playing Mr. Howell's greed against him. And he says, right, just leave the others make the money, and you have the peace of mind knowing you have the cheapest rent. You couldn't stand if you were there right now anyway, he tells him. Why, the stock market's gone crazy, he says. Land values are soaring, and the new tax cuts. And Mr. Howell, it's just too much for him to hear.
Yeah, this is just Wrongway just being a dick. Like, did you not see why I want to whoop his ass, kick his ass this episode?
And he tells Mr. Howell, and the bank rates are going up. I tell you, it's a sickness. Money, he tells him. Mr. Howell finally says, I have you no mercy. It's funny he's broken, Mr. Howell. Have you no mercy. That's excellent right there. I'm glad I got that still. And meanwhile, this scene here, I'm sure is going to make Gorilla real happy. Here's Wrongway. Musicals are even worse than the dramas, he's telling Ginger. And he says he's seen 7 of them in New York. And he says there was this one that had a good. There was one that was any good. If I had this, he tells her it had this young girl in it. She even looked like you. He tells her, she was, and he tells her the name, and she says, "Really? She was my roommate. She's a toast of Broadway." He says, and he says he met her backstage. And he says, "Poor girl," with the reporters and the photographers. And he tells her, "Oh, you're lucky. You didn't, poor kid, no time for herself." So he's basically, unfortunately, now you can see Ginger starting to cry because he's telling her that her best friend is getting all the limelight and all the attention from all the reporters and making it famous. And he's telling her she's lucky she doesn't have to worry herself with all those things. And he says, "What kind of life is that for a young girl?" he says. And of course, Ginger breaks down crying. And he said, "That's all right, honey. You have a good cry. I feel the same way about poor Debbie. Facing a life like that," he says. And here we have a cutscene. And we have our 3 gentlemen here walking along, trying to figure out what to do with Wrongway Feldman. And I've tried talking to him too, but he's determined to stay here, they say. And Gilligan remembers. I says, "I could fly that plane. Wrongway taught me, remember?" And Gilligan goes through the motions of what they showed in the first episode, where Wrongway did teach him how to fly the plane. Ignition, contact, choke, throttle, stick, flaps. I'm glad Gilligan remembers all that. So they say, "Hey, that's a great idea. It's worth a try," says the professor. And now they're figuring, well, maybe if they can get Wrongway to go back, if they can figure out a good reason, like an emergency or something. And Gilligan says he can pretend that he's sick. And Skipper tells him, no, you'll mess it up. I'll pretend that I'm sick. So we have Skipper here on his hammock and moaning and groaning in pain. And he's faking as if he has an appendicitis. Gilligan rushes to get Wrongway and brings him back to the hut and says, there he is. Something's wrong with him. And Gilligan says he needs a doctor, right? He needs an operation. So they're trying to convince him that Wrongway that he needs to go back to civilization and get a doctor and bring him back to the island. We have to get a doctor. Not necessary. I'll do it, says Wrongway. Oh, no. Gilligan says, you can take out an appendix? Because I've done it for my old friend Bucky Lorenzo, he says. And immediately taking on a doctor role there. And Skipper's pleading with him, but I think I need a doctor. And then, of course, Wrongway saying, that's what Bucky said, too. And, of course, the Wrongway says, I did make the incision a little too long. That didn't bother old Bucky. Look at the look on Skipper's face. And Wrongway says he just wore his bathing suit up a little higher. And, of course, imagine that. Wrongway hands Gilligan the tools and the instruments for surgery. And imagine having Gilligan be the assistant on your operation. Wouldn't that be lovely? And then that's when they realize they need to get the skipper out of there. And suddenly the skipper decides he's feeling much better. And he gets up and says he's no more pain. And he's still trying to tell them, I'll do what I do for Bucky. Hit him with a monkey wrench because I hate to miss the jokes. But they asked Wrongly, what are we going to do about anesthesia? And he says he'll do the same for Bucky. He'll hit him in the back of the ear with a monkey wrench. And when Skipper hears this, he starts running around and dancing, saying, no, I'm fine. Look. And he, right. And he runs out, of course, not wanting to be operated on. And here we are with the Skipper and Gilligan trying to come up with another idea. And of course, Skipper, make this look good, Gilligan. It might be our last chance, of course. But now they want to try to fake that he has Ebola virus. That's it. Thank you. So Gilligan is trying to learn the different steps of the different symptoms, and Skipper's helping him rehearse. And here's where they say, quick, he's coming. There he is. And here's where Gilligan has the notes written on his hand. Funny how stomach isn't spelt right.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at how he spelled stomach ache.
Right, that's Gilligan's spelling for you. And Wrongway almost sees the hand because Gilligan's looking at the fingers behind Wrongway's back. And here's where Skipper's acting concerned. Gilligan, little buddy, you look awful. What's the matter? And here's where Gilligan starts listing off the different symptoms. And he's lifting and moaning, and he's said that he's got a dry mouth. And Wrongway says, oh, Dad, you look really bad. And he says, no, it's not appendicitis. You better get my monkey wrench, he tells the Skipper. Oh, no, I think you're wrong, Wrongway, he tells him. And Wrongway says, oh, he doesn't have appendicitis? What are some of his other ones? Symptoms, he means. And Wrongway says, well, if he had Ebola virus, he'd have fainting spells. And when he says that, Gilligan immediately faints, of course. And now he's trying to explain to them if he had the Ebola virus, it may be a 24-hour virus. And Gilligan passes out again. And then that's when Wrongway says maybe the professor can can fix him up. And the Skipper says, no, he needs a doctor. So Wrongway considers it and thinks about it. It says, going back to Hawaii. And here's where they're sad because everything they tried did not work. And they're giving up, saying, if we haven't convinced him by now, it's no use. Here goes Mary Ann with some water. And they explain, where is Wrongway? Isn't he having breakfast? And they said, no. So I went to wake him and he wasn't there. Maybe he's down at the lagoon. And they realize he's gone. And here comes the professor with a note. And he says, Wrongway, he's gone to get help. It worked, and they're all excited. What's with all this excitement? Well, And they have the note, here come the howls when they hear the commotion. It's wrong way. I found this note at the clearing. Listen, says the professor. And the note, this is funny. Oh, sorry, I have to cough again. My throat gets, if I do I've been doing a lot of talking and I need to drink something. Excuse me. I found myself faced with the difficult, never mind the memoirs, get to the important part, says Mr. Howell. And so I decided Gilligan's life is more important, says the professor, reading the note. Yes, I have gone to the mainland. It's a far, far better thing I do, he says. Oh, Thurston, we're going to be rescued, says Mrs. Howell, and they're all excited. Yes, unless he's gone the wrong way again. It is a possibility, says Mr. Howell. So here we are. We cut. Everybody has their bags packed. And, of course, the Howells are dressed in their best clothing there because they're ready to go, expecting a rescue. And this is kind of heartbreaking. Once again, we see the castaways honestly, sincerely thinking they're going to be rescued, only to find out it's not going to happen. And unfortunately, they're already talking about what plans they'll do when they get back to the mainland. And Ginger says, I can't wait to see my name up in lights. Ginger Guggenheimer. And they even say, well, isn't your name Ginger Grant? And she said, yes, but I want as many lights as I can get. And, of course, Skipper, I think I'll have a nice cold beer, too. And the professor says, I just want to sleep in a nice, soft bed. Yeah, they're setting themselves up for failure here. It's just going to make more heartbreak.
All right, just a sec. Hofcast says, cheers, Oiler Greg. Cheers, boss. Lemon Pie says, hello, Hofcast. Lemon Pie says, hi, Oiler. Sean Carter, welcome.
Hey, Sean Carter, good to see you there.
Hell, I'll just pop in after PCB.
All right. Well, I'm glad you made it, Sean. It's so good to see you. And thank you for stopping by my Evil Dead stream last night. And it's strange that suitcase there in front of Mr. Howell. I remember that design. I haven't seen that in years, but I remember that design. It's interesting. I can't remember what it's called.
Which one?
The suitcase on the left, the light-colored one.
Wasn't that a steamer trunk?
No, it looks like a suitcase. A steamer trunk is a big square box. And, of course, they're talking about as soon as they get back, Mr. Howell says he wants to double the rent, and Mrs. Howell says, no, we're going to triple the rent. Of course, that's all they're thinking about is the money. And here's where they hear the propeller of the plane. And Wrongway returns, and they're all excited. And, of course, they run. I'm going to try to show this here. And here he is almost running them over, unfortunately. And they greet him as he gets off the plane, and they realize he does not have a doctor with him. And they say, what is that, your graduation speech? We've heard that before. He starts saying the same spiel that he had written on the note. And they said, didn't you bring a doctor? And he says, certainly not. And he says he had a hard time getting in there without being noticed. So apparently he made it back to the mainland, snuck in, and nobody knew he was there. And Ginger asks him, you mean nobody knows we're here? And he says, not from me. So he tells them that he didn't tell anybody about the castaways, unfortunately.
Because he's a dick.
And, of course, now they're saying that they're all sick. And he says, it's a good thing I got back in time. It looks like an epidemic. And he has a bottle of medicine. So basically he went back and he stole a bottle of medicine. And he hands it to them. So here we are, cut to later. We should keep looking. Somebody might have followed him. So they're still hoping maybe that somebody followed Wrongway back to the island there. And they're taking shifts. And they spot Wrongway over there just by the trees. Just being lazy, doing nothing. And that's when Gilligan saying he'd got to get, they're talking about if they can make him so upset to where he would leave the island. And Skipper thinks that's a wonderful idea. They said that the reason why he left the island was because of all the noise and the hustle and bustle. So they're saying, well, we can make some noise. So it cuts back to the hut with Wrongway sleeping and a lot of loud banging, which wakes him up. Banging and hammering.
All right, Sean Carter says, not that I'm advocating it, but any thoughts on any cast if they rebooted the show? I'd honestly be okay with it if they did it in a homage and with respect.
Yeah, but with today's writers and today's messaging, I'll say, I hope they never touch it. They need to stay miles away from it because I mean, every property they've no, the thought of it just makes me sick. What they would do to Gilligan's Island if they had their hands on it. I hope that Sherwood Schwartz's family, Sherwood Schwartz, of course, the producer, has passed away, but his estate and family are still around, and I'm hoping they never take that paycheck like the rest of the other people have done. Here's where Wrongway is going to find out what's all the noise about. And he says, "Well, everybody up. It's time for work," says the skipper. And he explained to them that they want to. Or they tell him they want to build a city. And the professor says, "Yeah, just like back home. We got to get civilized." And Wrongway says, "Fine, you folks get civilized. I'm going back to bed." And they say, "No, just a minute, Wrongway, not so fast. You take this sledge and get over there and get to work," pretty much is what Skipper tells him, and start driving those stakes in. And of course, Wrongway struggles with it, and it's too heavy. And they cut here. We have Wrongway here running the mixer for clay to make homemade cement. And we have Wrongway looking disheveled and very tired because obviously they're working him to the bone.
Well, he deserved it.
Yes, he did. That's what I'm saying is Gilligan's Island, usually when somebody acts like a jerk, they usually do get their comeuppance and they get what they deserve, which I like about that. They have a way of punishing the people for being jerks. And he says he wishes he could slow down and get some water, and Ginger says, "Don't," or coffee. And Ginger says, "Don't worry, I'll bring that to you." And there we are, Ginger bringing him coffee. And he says it tastes terrible. And she says, "Well, we make it from fish," which does sound terrible. And she said, "I mean, the ensign's not as good, but as the regular, but." And he says, "No, I don't want any more." And she says, "Skipper, he's ready." And now he's starting to miss civilization. "Can I have a little cream cheese on a roll, a prune bagel?" And here we are. Skipper has another bucket full of mud or clay, and he pours it into the mixer. And here we are, Skipper bringing Wrongway to the new construction site. And here we have a sign that says "Freeway under construction." And Wrongway says, "Freeway? What do we need a freeway for?" "Well, we can't let everything go to the last minute." He says, what do we need a freeway for? We don't even have a car. And Gilligan says, "Well, we can't let everything go to the last minute."
The day that the professor makes a Flintstones car, that'll be the best episode ever.
Which he does eventually do.
And again, the Howells put Gilligan to work, pedaling his ass off, driving them around.
Of course. But we haven't gotten that episode yet, but I'll be interested to see, somebody tell him to get in there and drive, or does he get all excited and say, "I want to drive, I want to do it"? Because that sounds like something Gilligan would do. It sounds like Gilligan would be eager to want to drive the car, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen that episode in many years.
It does start out that way, but
Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, eventually they're going to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. Alrighty. Sean Carr says that pop culture. Oh, for sure they'd screw it up. The only person I could think of would be Bob Gunton as Howell. Gunton was the warden in Shawshank Redemption. He's just a fun thought experiment. I thought sometimes totally agreed they'd mess it. I thought he was dead.
I don't know. I don't remember who we were talking about. I didn't like that movie very much.
He was the warden there that what's his face took.
Well, I know what the movie was. I saw it once. I just didn't like it. I remember Tim Robbins was in it, and I think Morgan Freeman.
Oh, I love
and
that
I know
movie.
it had James Whitmore with the rats. The Birds. I can't remember what it was. It was a rip-off of The Birds from Alcatraz, but
Yeah,
and I know it was
love
popular. I know it was popular, and a lot of people liked it, and I think it won Academy Awards. But it wasn't my thing. Too many cliches. If anybody was ever asked me, what movie would you say had the most cliches in it? My first answer would be The Shawshank Redemption. That movie is packed with cliches. The whole movie is based on cliches.
Not only that, but you're right. It's a ripoff of
Birdman from Alcatraz.
Birdman,
Papillon, right?
And Papillon.
Right. It's
totally
typical Stephen King. It's typical Stephen King. Everything he makes is taken from something else. And The Shawshank Redemption is just a conglomerate of a bunch of better movies put into one, in my opinion, that is.
I agree with you 100%. The first time I saw it, I recognized that. I'm like, wait a minute. This is fucking Papillon, and this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They even touch on some Edward G. Robinson jail movie.
Yes. Many, right? Like we're not supposed to remember, I guess, but I do because I like those older movies. And here's where Mrs. Howell's trying to keep them all cheerful. There's nothing like feeling dirt against your opera gloves, she says. Right. And he's still doubting, why do they have to have a freeway? And Mr. Howell reminds him, well, not only that, but we're going to have an art museum and City Hall. Like they really could use it. It's part of our slum clearance project, says Mr. Howell. And here we are with the Howells acting like they're actually doing some work. And unfortunately, their rakes bunked together. And Mrs. Howell says, oh, we haven't even finished the freeway. We've had our first accident. Of course, she's laughing at it. Oh, by the way, they call me Nobody. I need to ask you a question. The lady that plays
shoot.
The lady that plays Mrs. Howell, how old do you think she is here?
She's actually not very old. I always, as a kid, I thought she was a very pretty lady. I did.
Well, she is pretty. I'm not doubting her looks. The reason why I'm asking is she's older than she looks.
Not really. I think she was in her 40s at the time.
65.
You're kidding me.
No, she was born in 1900. And
she holds up pretty goddamn good for 65.
Yes, and this was 65. Okay, she was born in 1900. This was 1965. Now remember, she made Rescue from Gilligan's Island 15 years later, along with the other all three movies. So,
and of all the characters, she's the one that doesn't look much different.
Nope, she was at least 15 years older than Jim Backus playing Mr. Howell, and she did her own stunts in this show. So yeah, when you find out her age at the beginning, which I did when I was looking it all up, you really start to admire her for what she did. When they show her in the lagoon, falling in the water, all the stunts, she did all the stunts herself. And she insisted on it. She insisted on doing everything that all the other castaways did. And I loved it. I'm going to be doing little mini bios on each actor and actress, and I'll be covering her as well. She acted all the way up into her 90s. And here we have where she says, we haven't finished the freeway. We've had our first accident, she says. And Mr. Howell telling Wrongway, just don't stand there, get to work. You got an accident. Yes, you've got to work over there. Okay, so here they are ordering him around. And here we are cut to later on that evening. Here we have Wrongway heading towards the huts, tired and ravished and hungry. And we have Marianne who's clearing the table. And Wrongway asks her, what's for supper? And she says, oh, it's salad, soup, salad, fish. Oh, yes. And she says, Ginger made a fabulous dessert. And Ginger made one of our delicious desserts, she says. And he says, great, because I'm almost starved. And she says, well, too bad you missed it. And she walks away. See, so he's getting what he deserves for treating him the way he did. And here's where he realizes, oh no. Broke it down. And now they've broken him down just like he did Mr. Howell, just like he did Ginger.
And holy crap, the chat's took off here.
Show it on the screen.
Okay, Sean says He was the captain of the Phoenix in TNG, The Wounded. Captain Benjamin Maxwell. And welcome.
Wait, are you talking about the guy who played Wrongway?
No, the guy who wants Bob Gundry. You wanted to play. You wanted to replace.
Right, the guy
Mr.
from
Hall.
Shawshank Redemption, right? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he is also in TNG. But Aunt Drew, Jill, welcome. Hello.
Hail, Jill. So good to see you. Glad you could come by.
Yeah, nobody's here. Cool. Jill, that apparently, Jill, Sean's crying because Jill hurt his feelings there. Just never seen him here before. Oh, LMNAO. Sean's smiling now, and Jill's laughing.
Yeah, Sean Carter. We've known him. We met him on Doomcock's channel. He's a fantastic guy. And here we are with Wrongway sleeping between the two of them, and they don't care anymore at this point. And they're rocking their hammocks to and fro, left and right. And every time they do that, it bumps into Wrongway, so he's having trouble sleeping. And they're telling him just go to sleep. And of course, they keep talking as he's trying to sleep because he's exhausted from doing all that work. Yeah. And they're saying there's one thing about the islands, they're so peace and quiet, no noisy neighbors. And he says, can't you two shut up and get a little sleep? Good night, Wrongway. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
I said good. Yeah.
Keep going.
And he said, I said good night already. You were going to say something, Gorilla?
Yeah. Lemon Pie says, excuse me, Jill. And Jill says, I love that my rival has thrown off Gorilla's world. The chat took off here. And hi, Lemon Pie. I didn't mean nobody is in the chat. I meant nobody is on the panel.
Right, Mr. Nobody. And here's where Gilligan says, yeah, it's great to see Jill. She had trouble with her computer a couple of days ago, but she's got it up and running.
Yeah,
it's in expert hands.
Laughing.
And Gilligan says, Skipper, do you mind if I read? No, not at all, says the Skipper. How about you, Wrongway? And Wrongway, of course, not interested. He's mumbling. So Gilligan grabs a light and turns it on and places it there so he could see to read. And, of course, Wrongway says, what is this, a hut or a lighthouse? And here's where Gilligan asks Skipper about a certain word and what does it mean. And Wrongway says, please, I got to get some sleep. And here's where they're hungry. And Gilligan's eating an apple. And unfortunately, the noise is keeping Wrongway awake. And Skipper says he's hungry. And Gilligan offers him some celery. So here they are eating and making crunching noises. And Wrongway says, can't you just eat a nice quiet banana and get some sleep? And here's where Skipper says you can sleep late tomorrow morning. And Wrongway says, I can. And they say, sure, it's tomorrow, Saturday. Here he's all excited. Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Skipper. Thank you. I can sleep. I can sleep. And they continue crunching as he's trying to sleep. And he realizes with all this crunching going on, he can't sleep.
Well, he got so excited he couldn't sleep.
Right. He said he's got so excited about knowing that he could sleep in tomorrow, but he can't sleep. And here we are the next day. They're all at the table. And, of course, they're all depressed. And Skipper says that they're talking about how they've had him working hard. And Skipper even said that I haven't let him wash in 3 days. And they're saying, well, maybe he's down in the lagoon taking a bath. Sorry about my phone. And they're saying he better take a break. And they realize that here he is. He's firing up the plane. And they can hear the motor. And there he is taking off. And they hear it. Isn't that Wrongway's plane? Yes, it must be. So immediately they head off towards the runway or the lagoon. I'm not sure where the runway exactly is supposed to be. Here we go. And before they can reach him, he's already gone. And there's the castaways getting a bunch of sand in the face. And off goes Wrongway back into the sky. And he looks and he says, well, there he goes. And they're saying, well, we hope that he tells somebody. And Mr. Howell says, why shouldn't he? There's no reason to keep a secret. And the professor is saying, well, he doesn't have to. We don't have a paradise anymore, he says. And if he doesn't tell anyone, we'll still be rescued. Skipper loaded that plane with maps and notes. So here we are, Wrongway. And I don't think we'd ever get off this island, but this time, now they're sure of it, says the skipper. In the bag, even Wrongway can't mess this up. And Marianne, it's too good to be true. We're really going home. It's heartbreaking every time they think they're going to get off that island. And we know that it's going to be at least 15 years. Oh, that crazy, wonderful fool. And Mr. Howell's so excited, he says, I'll even give him that oh well, even though it is a dry one. Mr. Howell. And here we are, of course, the airplane flying upside down. And as you can tell, those are the clouds below him, which means the clouds are above him, which means this is actually just stock footage of a plane. And they've got it upside down.
Yeah. Is that even possible?
Yes, you could do a loop-de-loop.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you can actually just turn. You don't even have to do a loop-de-loop. You can just hit your flaps one opposite the other and turn the plane upside down. I've seen stunt pilots do it many, many, many times.
I didn't know if that would affect the aerodynamics or not.
Oh, it does, but you got to know how to fly. It'll keep going. You just turn it around, man. If you understand how the wing works with low pressure over the top of the wing, high pressure under the bottom, it gives lift. When you flip the plane around, you're going to be falling. But if you do it at a good enough height, you can keep it upside down for quite a while and then just turn it around again and lift yourself back up.
Yes, and they can even do it with jet planes. Like that.
I went after my pilot's license. I actually own a plane, but I got to have another guy drive it.
Nice.
But I can co-pilot it. They wouldn't give it to me because I got cancer, and they're like, you failed the physical, and I'm sorry, we can't give you your pilot's license.
Well, that's not cool. Sorry to hear that.
I get to, he gives me the controls all the time. So
okay. When you're up in the air, nobody's looking, right?
That's right.
Yeah, because I remember that famous. It really happened. Remember they based the movie on a flight with Denzel Washington, where he had to fly he had an airliner with full of passengers, and he had to fly it upside down. So it definitely.
Oh, yes. A plane can fly upside down for a fairly good period. You'd be surprised.
Here we are once again, the passengers waiting for their rescue and their trip home, and wondering why it's taking so long. And they're hungry, and they're saying, anybody want anything to eat?
And, of course, it's the radios that's going to come to their rescue again.
Yeah. And Sean is rolling his eyes. Lemon Pie says, Administrator Jill. Lemon Pie says, hello, nobody. Nice to meet you. And hi there, Lemon Pie. And he says hi to Pop Culture.
Hail, hail, Lemon Pie. And here's where they realize we should have heard something by now. He's been gone for 3 days. And, of course, they realize that there's always a possibility he could have crashed. And Skipper says, yeah, I thought about that, but I was afraid to say something. And here's where Gilligan rushes to the scene, saying that he found a bottle with a note from Wrongway in it. So excitedly, they pull the note out of the bottle, and Skipper gets ready to read it. He found it, and Gilligan explains he found it down at the beach. And Skipper proceeds to read the note. And it says, I charted my course for Honolulu, but oddly enough, I lost my bearings when I flew into the eye of a hurricane, pretty much. And here, from reading the note, we hear that Wrongway apparently landed on another tropical island. And you see here he has people serving him hand and foot. And he seems to be very happy with the situation. And he says, somehow I landed on a beautiful tropical island. And then finally he found the paradise I was looking for, he says. And he seemed to be enjoying himself.
And
Maybe
who
next time-
was the actor that did Wrongway Feldman? Because I feel like he's familiar over old 60s and 70s shit that I've seen.
Hans Conried, and he did a lot of cartoons.
Ah,
I'm sure there's a lot of cartoons that you realize if you looked it up that he had done before. I can bring that up real quick. Because I remember too when I was a kid, I was like, well, his voice sounds familiar. I remember that. Because it's his voice that really stands out.
yeah. Now that I think about it, what was that one cat on Hanna-Barbera that always went, exit, stage left? I'm betting that's him.
Snagglepuss?
Snagglepuss.
Let's see here. Of course, he was on Love Boat. Laverne and Shirley, Captain Outer Space, Tony Randall Show, Quark, The Hobbit, The Shaggy DA, Kolchak the Night Stalker, Dr. Seuss on the Loose. He was the narrator for Dr. Seuss on the Loose. The Sneetch by the Bonfire. Love American Style. Here's Lucy, Butch Cassidy. The Phantom Toll Booth. Horton Hears a Who. So he did a lot of the, that's right, yeah, a lot of the Dr. Seuss cartoons. Brady Bunch, Daniel Boone, Beverly Hillbillies. So yeah, he did his rounds on a lot of TV shows. But George of the Jungle, he was the narrator of George of the Jungle.
I remember. I loved George of the Jungle when I was a kid.
Yeah, same here. I did too. A few Jerry Lewis movies here. The Bullwinkle Show, Snidely Whiplash on the Bullwinkle Show.
No shit, he was Snidely Whiplash.
Yep.
I'll be damned.
And I know Jill knows who Bullwinkle is. She said she's watched those cartoons as well. So yeah, Jill, there's a little bit of trivia for you as well. And Wrongway says, maybe next time I'll make it to Honolulu. And as you can see, the castaways here are not very happy to hear this. Best wishes, W. Feldman. Well, that's it.
Buggers.
Yeah. Left us high and dry, says the skipper. And skipper says there's one more thing. On the bottle, it says, return the empty.
Hey, have you guys gotten to the one where the U.S. launches a satellite and it lands on the island? And they get it all covered in feathers and they're saying, it's chicken people on another planet.
Right. No, we have not got. We've gotten to where a missile crash landed, but we have not gotten to the satellite episode yet.
Okay, if that one's a classic, I can't miss that. I hope God I make that one.
I'm excited for it. Yeah, because there's so many, and I'm glad we're still in the first season, so there's so many ahead of us for us to enjoy. I'm really excited.
That one line where, what's that big chicken doing to the little one? I think he's trying to make him lay an egg. Oh my goodness. The memories of this show. Christ, I used to laugh my ass off at this show.
And what's great is it's like a time capsule. It's still just as good as it always has been. It's great to see it untainted by Hollywood.
Yeah, there's some, I'm sorry, I don't have the time or the energy to look it up. But on BitChute, you can see quite a bit of Gilligan's Island on different channels.
Yes. I do recommend if physical media, everybody, if you can buy it, that's the best way to do it.
Well, the nice part is it's totally free. I guess you're right. I mean, a guy really should pay for it, I suppose.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, if I wanted something bad enough, I'll just sail the high seas. So, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And then I have a server with an enormous amount of hard drive space. So, yeah, I've got the Blu-ray versions of this. I'll put it that way. And I'll point out once again, I have to because I'm a huge fan. Music scored and composed by the great John Williams. He was young then, and they call him Johnny Williams, but that's the same John Williams now who just said he's not going to retire.
Yeah, my kids grew up I showed them not just the old Bugs Bunny, but I bought all the collections. So that all the Warner Brothers stuff, I had all, even the band shit, all uncut.
Good.
And I showed all that to them, and they loved it. And then they got into a bunch of the 90s cartoons, of course. But they really liked Gilligan's Island. They loved it.
Gilligan's Island transcends all generations. Even kids now love it.
Yeah.
And like Jill said, when she watched, Jill said that she thought it was like a cartoon to her.
Yeah.
There was a cartoon, wasn't there? There was.
Oh, there. Yeah, we'll cover that. There were 2 of them. Yeah, produced by Filmation.
All right. Jill says, "Watch out for that tree."
Reference to that's
"Wee."
right.
Jill says, "Yes, that's awesome. Dudley always gets his man, but I guess that means something different today."
Oh well, yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
does. But when she says "watch out for that tree," she's referring to George of the Jungle, of course.
Yeah. And Sean says, "In a way, he'll
Schlep.
on his elephant. Shep with Bella and Ursula stay in step music."
Right.
Gilligan's Island is a live-action cartoon, and the Gilligan's cartoon was not good.
No, it wasn't. The only saving grace of the cartoons were they were mostly voiced by the original cast. So it was good to hear them come back again, but plot wise, it wasn't very good. It wasn't as good as there was Gilligan. There was basically it was them on the island again, a cartoon, and then it was them, believe it or not, on a planet in space, which really made even less sense. But like I said, it was good to see them again. And I'll make this quick. After Gilligan's Island went off the air, Sherwood Schwartz was trying for years to bring it back. He was taking it around and pitching it to the studios, and they wouldn't have anything of it. They didn't think there was another life in Gilligan's Island. They thought it was in the past. So when that happened, that's when Sherwood Schwartz, like he produced a show called Dusty's Trail, which was like a bad ripoff of Gilligan's Island that also had Bob Denver in it. I'll be showing clips of that when I show my Janos Prohaska video.
I've seen that train wreck. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Forrest Tucker. Yeah, it's not. It's bad. But what happened was Filmation kept asking. Go ahead.
When you want to talk about bad, probably the worst thing that was ever put on TV, and I can still remember it from my childhood. For some reason or other, it got picked up, and the episodes were shown again as I got a little older. My Mother the Car.
Yes. Oh God. Yes. And you know that that was Jerry Van Dyke who was offered the role of Gilligan, and he turned it down for that show, right?
And I mean, even as a kid, I'm like, this show stinks. I kind of like the old Lizzie T, but come on, man, this is retarded.
All right, pop culture. I do got a bug out here. It's after midnight, and
me too.
Well, all right. Well, I know. I apologize that it went on a little longer than usual, there, Gorilla. I'll wrap this up.
Fine.
I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here. Lemon Pies. I think Scobly was here for a little bit. Anna Dribble Jill was here. Captain Pinnity, I know, stopped by. Nemesis of Eden, I know, was here. Hoff from the Hoffcast was here. I put a link in the channel in the chat for him. Let me throw yours out there really quick, Gorilla, here before you leave. There, I just put in a link for Gorilla's channel. Please check it out. Gorilla, why don't you tell us about your channel really quick?
Well, I got the thing made ahead of time here. On Friday, we're reviewing the Waltons episode, "The Boy from the CCC," Babylon 5 on Saturday night. We're almost done with season 3 of Babylon 5. And for our last movie for Dystopian Month, it will be A Boy and His Dog. Then, depending if I might stream tomorrow if I don't work.
Very nice. Very cool. And they call me Nobody. Do you have anything to tell us about your channel?
No, you guys, it's just a bunch of boring videos of the lakes and the mountains out here and some of my snowmobiles and my toys and shit, whatever.
Well, I don't think it's boring. I mean, feel free, everybody, if you're listening, please check out They Call Me Nobody. Check out his channel. It's great. I like it. And he's got a lot of interesting topics, in my opinion. And I'm going to be adding I'm going to be adding your link also to my Stream Elements bot. So every time you come on here, I'll plug your channel there. Nobody. Okay.
I'm actually I've gotten some new let's just call it photography equipment, and
Sweet.
I'm gonna put a few more up this spring. I found a couple new cabins that I've never seen before. They're kind of interesting, but they're quite a ways out from where I am.
Oh, okay, very cool. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it until when I get out there with my truck and my quad, fine. But in the winter, kind of hard. Sure, make some great pictures to get out there in the winter. But I need, all of my sleds are high performance. They're made for screaming up mountainsides or doing drag races. I need a trail sled, like a trapper sled, to get out there.
Oh, okay.
In the winter. But I'm telling you, in the winter, it'd be really picturesque. There's a big lake up here that nobody knows about except me and the natives that live there. It's a nice place, man. It's pretty cool.
It sounds like it. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Let me share this really quick here before you leave, Gorilla. I'll make this really quick. I had a poll in the chat, which I usually ask people, which episode did they enjoy the most? And here's the poll results. Oops, is it going to show it? Oh, here we are. Which episode did you enjoy the most? And it looks like we have 100% vote for the Return of Wrongway Feldman. And we have 0% on the others. So thank you everybody for voting. I really appreciate that. And once again, thank everybody in the chat. Thank you for being here. We would not exist without you and your support. I love you guys, seriously. And thank you, Gorilla, for being here on the panel and helping me out. Thank you for stopping by and visiting us also, Mr. Nobody. It was great. They call me Nobody. Sorry.
Yeah. All good.
I keep thinking of the Lost in Space episode, Mr. Nobody. But yeah, they call me Nobody. Okay. All right, guys. Everybody, you stay warm. I know there's a lot of storms out there. Take care of yourself. Drive safely. And I'll be closing this out here. And I'll be excited. I can't wait to see you all again soon. I'll be having another rumbling from the live stream coming up here within the next couple days. Check out Gorilla and They Call Me Nobody and Anti-Derivative Jill's channel. Peace.